The meeting is now reconvened to open session. Tonight, we have Evan Pitts from Victory High School with us as our student board member. Welcome, Evan. We are glad to have you with us for our first meeting this year. Will you please introduce our color guard and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the presentation of the colors, Whitney High School Air Force Junior ROTC Color Guard, and the Pledge of Allegiance. The commander and U.S. flag bearer for this evening's color guard is Cadet Captain Kate Todd. The state flag is carried by Cadet Master Sergeant Heaven Green. The right guard is Cadet Captain Lucas Stayer. The left guard is Cadet Captain Megan Pellegrini. The alternate tonight is Cadet First Lieutenant Jackson Kessler.
The board would like to remind the public this meeting is being audio and video recorded. The meeting is available via live stream for the public through links found on our front page of the RUSD website or on the board agenda item 1.1. The board will accept both verbal and written comments. Anyone who wishes to submit a written comment can find the instructions on agenda item 1. If you are planning to address the board tonight, please fill out a green public comment card and turn it in prior to the agenda being closed, or agenda item, being closed. Cards must be filled out completely. I will call your name, step to the podium, and let you know who's on deck. When you approach the podium, restate your name, city you live in, the school your children attend. All public comments must be addressed directly to the board. All comments must be respectful and professional, no profanity. There's a 3-minute limit per person on one agenda item. We also want to remind the audience if the board room is full capacity, there's no re-entry into the room. Once you leave the building, you'll be not able to re-enter so we can allow others to come in. Now moving on to special recognition and presentation portion of the meeting, Sandeep Doshanj, Chief of Communications.
Good evening, President Counter, trustees, and Superintendent Stock. The Family Partners in Education program is an opportunity for the Rocklin Unified School District to recognize family engagement and involvement to help our students achieve excellence during the school year. Tonight, we have Granite Oaks Middle School Principal, Mr. J. Holmes, who will introduce the Volkoff family.
Good evening, President Counter, all the members of our school board, and Superintendent Stock. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. I am so proud to honor Sumi Volkoff and her family, Casper and Dashel and Brian, especially Brian for letting Sumi spend so much time at Granite Oaks. Thank you, Brian. As you well know, middle school is very challenging in regard to having our parents there for any amount of time. Some parents are in for 2 years, so it's a big transition. It's a transition as their students move into middle school. Then we kind of get them there for good 6 months, and then we've got the last semester and they're transitioning out. So trying to have parents in a Parent Falcon Club or PTC to actually do so many great things for our school is very difficult. Sumi she has done an amazing job helping us to raise monies that we use to support our teacher appreciation, our technology, our clubs, so many different things at Granite Oaks Middle School that we could not do without her. So I'd like to call Sumi up, I think, right now, if that's a good idea. Sumi and her family, come on up. So again, we have Sumi, Dashel, Casper, and Brian.
Parent volunteers that are reliable and that show up day after day, and especially those who do as much as you and your family have done for Granite Oaks, and we so appreciate your time, energy, and effort. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, trustees. Thank you for all that you do. Really appreciate it. And I forgot to say that Sumi did actually volunteer for this position because we were running low, and her actually taking up the reins has done an amazing job at Granite Oaks. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So you guys are more than welcome to hang out and stay around for one week. If you guys need to move along, by all means. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now moving on to employee organization reports. Welcome RTPA President Travis Moget.
Still not sure how I feel about following that, but we'll roll with it. Good evening, everyone. President Counter, Trustees, Superintendent Stock, Cabinet, Miss Brenda. I actually just learned tonight that Miss Brenda and I have a common connection to my mother-in-law, so that was a fun little pregame conversation. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't miss you guys last month. But I'm glad to be here. Actually, I got a lot of things this week and in the last couple weeks actually that have been a lot more normal, and all the great ways of normal. I got an opportunity to meet with Beth Davison and Han Anderson yesterday, start planning and working on PD and things, some of those normal routines and stuff, and even more exciting about that was we were talking about planning stuff for next year already. And just we're finally kind of in front of that snowball that I feel like we've been behind for so long, so that was really awesome. Had a great meeting today with Sarah Sorius and Bill McDonald and a whole team starting to dive into the dual immersion program planning for the new elementary school. So again, a lot of optimism as we move forward and things like that. And I may regret saying this because he's going to use it against me, but probably my highlight of conversations in progress this week was actually when Mr. Limoges and I had a great conversation. See, he just about fell out of his chair. I know. So mark the record, Brenda, because it's probably the only time. No, but we had a great opportunity to meet with Barbara and go over some finances and things. As we all know, finances have been an area of contingency for a while, and but we're talking about things proactively, and again for next year, and just really this like forward thinking compared to where we've been in a lot of conversations around negotiations and things in the past. So. Had a great meeting with Barbara and a team from the district, team from RTPA, and then a follow-up meeting with Tony and myself and our bargaining chair, Emily, who came and spoke last time, and just a good opportunity to just kind of like be open and honest and to just be human and take off the titles and the responsibilities and just where are we going, where do we want to be, and most importantly, how are we going to get there together? So it really is, and I know that's our big goal for everything, and I know labor management is the group working on that, but it was the first time in a long time where I feel like we were actually on the same page, and we want to be on the next page together, and it's not this back and forth of who's in chapter 3 and who's in chapter 7, like it's felt like in the past. So again, lots of good things, and again, the biggest piece of that is we're talking about next year already, right? I know you heard from us a lot earlier this year, especially about like we're trying to settle this year and and last year and all that. So just a lot of optimism moving forward with those kinds of things. So as we move forward and we look at things optimistically, I'm hoping to, and I'm going to ask you board members, and I know we can't engage too much here tonight, but that we can partner, we RTPA, you board, and obviously within some limitations of the Brown Act and things you guys have to comply with, in some areas where we can help kind of rebuild and mend a lot of things relational-wise. I know we're doing that in labor management, but there's relationships outside of the labor groups and the management groups that I think we all have some responsibility to start working on it and bettering. relationships with our community, those kinds of things. Kind of an area where I'm hoping we can partner is trying to work on how to address our community feeling that they have an opportunity to feel heard outside of just board meetings and maybe less formal opportunities. The same time, and I know, Rochelle, you've talked about this a lot, about the concern of teachers not feeling as comfortable to be heard directly as they want to. But just kind of working on those relationships in more indirect ways, and like I said, less formal ways, not standing here at the podium in a board meeting. And the one that stands out right now, and it's the elephant in the room, is the social media impact on our community, not just on our teachers, our students, you guys, but on our community. I think we've kind of gotten into a rut as a culture around our country where social media is really being used to kind of dwell on the negative, and there's not enough positive out there with that. And I think to the world I live in, where I spend too much money on Amazon, and if you go on Amazon, most of the reviews you find are what people didn't like about products, right? I think we as a district, and again, RTPA and you board members, I want to figure out a way we can be that positive review, right? We can be that positive voice, that influence on, obviously, our organization, but more importantly, our community. How can we be the example? How can we be that relational partnership that hopefully has that direct impact on the things out there and not dwell so much on the negative? Again, I don't know how we're going to get there, but again, this is me extending an invite on let's start that conversation. I know we've got a great resource in Sundeep over here to at least with our own social media presence, but how can we really emphasize that in a genuine way, not just a checkbox way that we've talked about in the past? And again, I go back to that conversation with Tony yesterday, and that was a genuine conversation. And my goal with RTPA, especially now that I feel like we're finally over that big hurdle that we've been kind of stuck on for a while, is that the collective 5 of you and RTPA have an opportunity to start moving forward in that direction. Outside of just, we're lucky we get Julie and Rochelle on our labor group, but the rest of you can't participate as directly yet, but I think we can find some creative ways. And so again, this is me extending an invite and an opportunity for us to creatively come up with what that's going to look like. So that's about it. No news is good news right now, so that's a good thing, I think. We are, on the negotiation topic, we are committed to meet on December 1. That'll be our next round. And that day actually is going to be planned in, and this, again, the conversation we had with Tony yesterday was, let's make that day like a useful focus day. Let's prioritize some things. Let's kind of work in an area where we are on the same page and we have some common ground and those kinds of things, and how we can get there, knowing that there's going to be the hard conversations. Rick, it always resonates with me when you were sitting in Derek's seat of we're going to agree to disagree more than often, or more than we probably want to, but I think we're in a place that we can actually do that productively now. And so we're looking forward to, Tony and Emily, our bargaining chair, almost at the same time shared that, like, we're over this passing papers game. Like, there's going to be a time where that's an element in the room, but we're over that, and let's write the paper together, not just here's mine, here's yours, and do it that way. So, again, maybe I'm too optimistic, but that's like I said, it's been a lot of good news, a lot of feeling more normal in all the right ways normal. So, and then the ways that are different, I've felt in a good way of different. So, that's about all I have. I'm gonna steal Chuck's spotlight probably because he's got to follow me after I had to follow the parents that always get recognized. So. Good luck, but again, thank you guys. Good to see you all, and I look forward to furthering that conversation. Thanks. Good luck, Chuck.
Just real quick, I do want to say I deeply appreciate that, and so and I appreciate your leadership and your coming to us having this conversation. And I think we can absolutely say that we are excited to meet you halfway and to forge a new relationship. It is in everyone's interest, and we're excited for a new era. Thank you.
Welcome, CCSA President Chuck Haddix. Chuck, the mic's yours. Don't worry about anything Travis said. It's all you, babe.
We're all good. We're all family in the room. Good evening, President Counter, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Stock. I'm pleased to announce that we ratified our articles that I believe is on the board tonight, and it passed unanimously. So we held a special meeting earlier a week or two ago, and it just passed unanimously. So we had a little bit of explanations to do with our group. They were asking us about the Me Too clause, which I'm still kind of fresh on the Me Too clause, but yeah, so we, yeah. so we kind of ironed out that wrinkle, so to say. So I'm very pleased to announce that had passed. So thank you guys for giving us that opportunity and the opportunity to earn that 1 3/4% on the, or 1.75% on the overtime. So Tony, we appreciate that. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys tonight.
Excellent.
So
Thank you, Chuck. I get, and both Travis and Chuck, thank you guys for being leaders, for having the optimism and the desire to work together and not split and not separate the groups. So I think it's a great thing, great partnerships. Let's continue this moving forward into 22 and on, and have it a lot better conversations moving forward. So thank you both. Thank you both. All right. Now moving on to item 7.1, comments from our student representative, Evan Pitts.
Good morning, Board of Trustees and Superintendent in Stock. Rock Creek has a WE club of 80 students that collected and assembled 360 hygiene kits for community members experiencing homelessness. They were even on the Good Day Sacramento news for their great work. Good job, guys. They enjoyed a school-wide costume parade October 31st, and also had a trunk or treat event. It was a huge hit. You guys liked it. Teachers have been meeting in small leadership teams to discuss a plan of implementations of character trait, SEL education, and building positive school culture. Other events include honoring our veterans with notes, a thank you banner in the middle of the campus, and a red, white, and blue spirit day that happened on November 12th. And also what happened on November 12th was a family night, a family movie night, and what's coming up is a Grinchmas event December 10th. It's gonna be nice, I hope. I don't know what a Grinchmas event is. The fourth graders will participate in a learning about people with disabilities through interactive virtual experience from an organization, A Touch of Understanding, on November 18th. Is that tomorrow? Yeah. Oh, okay, tomorrow. Sunset Ranch celebrated Red Ribbon Week with activities encouraging health and safety for all. They also finished the week with a costume parade supported by Whitney High School student leaders and the Wildcat herself. The sixth grade student families and staff are busy preparing for science camp that they will attend at the end of January. Finally, the Placer Valley Sunrise Rotary and Sunset Ranch PTC have partnered to provide our school with much-needed backpack cooks outside of each classroom. This is quite a project, and we are thankful for this community support. And finally, my school, Rocklin Alternative Education Center, Victory High School's Interact Club is once again putting service before self by hosting a food drive. We continue to collect non-perishable items, and thanks to the incredible generosity of our community, we are off to an amazing start. Please spread the word. We have a lot of hungry families out there. We recently conducted our quarterly award assembly. We're nearly 40% away. Nearly 40% of our students were recognized for their achievements, academics, and participation and attendance last month. Victory High School's Interact conductor, Ms. Jen Gamble, and ASB coordinator, Jana Kingery, led their respective club members in support of the Run Rocklin Mile 1 water station and participated in the, if you participated in the event, then you know how refreshing it was. It was the first water station. It was pretty nice. I was there too. It was pretty cool. We got everybody hyped up for the run.
Now moving on to item 7.2, comments from the superintendent and board. Superintendent Stock, do you have any comments you want to share this evening?
I do have a few. Just as Evan, our student trustee, mentioned Veterans Day, I just want to, being that was last week, we have many of our employees, whether they're teachers, support staff, management, that have served our country, and we're very proud and thankful for them. We know many of our parents and community members, including Trustee Hupp, who has 3 children that are veterans, 2 Army, 1 Air Force as well. And so we are just very thankful and proud of having employees and parents and community that have served our country. And so with Veterans Day last week, we honored our employees, and we just want to acknowledge that as well. Absolutely. Prior to the meeting tonight, the board had an opportunity to recognize certificated employees for Hallmark years of service, and we did the same with our classified employees in October. But our certificated employees, we were able to invite 154 employees who had milestones of service to children and families, and that constituted 2,740 years of service, just out of those 154 employees. So we are so thankful to have such dedicated people that continue to want to serve our children. And then I'd also like to update the board that you may have been aware that the superintendents in El Dorado County last week sent a letter to the governor. And I just want to update the board that I'm working with the 15 other superintendents in Placer County, including the Placer County Superintendent of Schools, on a joint letter from Placer County superintendents. And my goal, I can just share, is my goal in the letter, and I believe the intent of others, but I'll just speak to mine, is that we request the following of the governor in that letter: that the state give us transparent indicators on when the masking mandate in California schools will end, so we understand how that works. That the schools are allowed to work with their local public health officers to adapt the California Department of Public Health guidance and mandates to our local conditions. And so that we can expedite information and things that we need to do to keep students safe in our schools and our employees safe as well. That the state that the governor maintains the medical, religious, and personal belief exemptions related to any COVID vaccine requirements. Those are in his announced plan of mandates, and we want to encourage him and ask him to keep those in place. We think that's important for all of our families, employees to have that. And then we'd also really like the state of California to provide clarity and own what the mandates and requirements that are legally binding on school districts to follow, so that our citizens in our state, and frankly here in Rocklin, can engage with the appropriate decision makers instead of blaming local authorities, local school boards for decisions that we don't have any authority over and are being mandated by the state. So we want that clarity to be there. So that's the intent in my working with my superintendent colleagues on a letter, and I just wanted to update the board that we are working on that, and we will be moving ahead, I hope, with that. So just wanted to update you on that, and then wish everyone, of course, a phenomenal Thanksgiving holiday. And look, I know our students are definitely looking forward to 5 extra days of sleeping in, and I know that for our employees that have worked so hard, we wish them a safe and happy holiday as well.
Trustees, do you have any board comments you'd like to share tonight? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm up first. Yes, thank you, Superintendent Stock, for your comments. Our employee recognition right before this for the years of service, I have to say it was an interesting moment for me because not only have many of those teachers taught my children, there are actually some that had taught me as a child, and so that was an interesting and I won't say which one at which level, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, but it was great to be able to honor, again, not only the teachers that support this district, my own children, but also me as a child as well. So thank you to our teachers. I do have a few updates. We met for our 2x2 with the city council, and I actually was really encouraged because I know we have talked about and updated the board. Rochelle and I sit on that committee, and we've updated the board saying that we have had goals to continue to find joint efforts, things that we can do together. And I proposed that we look at an opportunity or an event where we really do like a focus on the students' night, where we identify what are some long-standing issues that we may have in our community. I know a lot of times we will talk about things, but our jurisdiction will end sometimes in spots where it finds it's difficult for us and sometimes city council to know, hey, who's responsible for that, who helps with that. If we're all serving the same families in the same community, we talked about what if we had one night where we identify maybe a few long-standing concerns we've seen that maybe by parent request or maybe by board request, threw out ideas, even maybe more information on vaping or more information on fentanyl use, some of those things. But we actually talk about bringing some of our Rocklin City nonprofits, businesses, government agencies all together to say, how can we pull our resources together and have one talking point, have one solution, or a variety of solutions for these families. So we're tackling these problems head on together as a team. So I'm very excited about that work. We'll be updating as more comes. We just threw that idea out, but there's a lot of excitement, and so I will keep us all updated on where that comes at our next meeting. I also, Superintendent Stock, wanted to hit on, I was very proud of the initiative that Rocklin High School took to honor our veterans. They had not only appreciation lawn signs delivered throughout the city of Rocklin, they also did a beautiful wall that honored our RHS staff and family members. And so I just wanted to say a heartfelt thank you to Rocklin High and our USD as a whole. Respect and appreciation for our military and our nation is a value I personally hold dearly. And daily patriotic activities like the Pledge of Allegiance, they're an important part of our children's education to me. And I want to ensure our community that they're important here at our USD because they are specifically encouraged and supported under both Cal Ed Code and our own board policy. So I wanted to make sure to take a moment to recognize that because I was very proud that we took that stance together. Additionally, I have had a lot of questions these last few weeks, and I'm sure if I'm getting them, you're probably getting them too. And so I just wanted to hit on a couple items really, really quickly. Not that people guess where I stand on things. I don't tend to be the quietest in the room, but I do believe there's a responsibility of me as a board member when I'm asked things to make sure people know in the public where I stand on them. So just a couple things that have come our way. Vaccine clinics. I'll call the elephant out of the room. A lot of people have asked me about these. Superintendent Stock, we met yesterday. I wanted to make sure that I had clarification to give on that. Could you clarify for those listening where our USD is at on that?
Our school district has not held any vaccination clinics for COVID on any of our campuses or facilities to date, and we don't have any plans to hold any vaccination clinics to date, nor have we been requested by any Placer County public health authorities to do so.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that for us. Also, I wanted to take a moment to thank you, Superintendent Stock, for all of the hard work you have already put in to this countywide letter that you are working on. I know many families are very appreciative of that. I personally am appreciative of that. And so I wanted to take a moment. That was by your request. And so I know I came to you and you had already done incredible work on that by the time I got to you on that. So I want to take a moment. I think it's important that the public hears. Thank you, Superintendent Stock, for your work on rallying our community together. And you already called out the main actions that I was hoping to see in that letter that don't get removed, because I know what happens when we work with many, many entities. A lot of times we have to change verbiage. And I would really, really hope that those four main sticky points that you spoke, that those stay in that letter. And I just want to show my public support for all four of those points, specifically ensuring that medical, religious, personal exemptions remain indefinitely. So thank you for doing that. Additionally, though, I do want to just share with our board a few thoughts before I close my board comments. I am so appreciative of this next step of this letter. I think the intent of the letter and sincerely hope that that intent is received and heard. However, I must share I'm very concerned that we may again receive a response of silence for 2 months, followed by continued or even increased statewide mandates like we received from the last letter we sent. All fall, I was told we would receive updated guidance on masking November 1, to only hear from the state continue as is. The emergency order has now been extended to March 2022. In my opinion, there's no end in sight. With that being said, I believe it is the responsibility of this board to take action to ensure our parents' voices are heard. I know legal action takes time and many steps, but something we can do today is to request our masking enforcement is updated in light of the recent statements made by the San Diego Superior Court last week. The mask requirement in K through 12 settings is mandated, but the quarantining and testing protocols are guidance. This board has made a commitment in previous meetings to assure that we do nothing above and beyond that which is required. With every individual age 5 and up now having access fully in 2 weeks to a vaccine if they so choose, I request we align our standard with this development by enforcing mask wearing by parent notification and the posting of door signs only, or make a formal request that guidance is updated by the state to specifically include we must exclude students. Until that requirement is made, I would like us to relook at that.
Well, in comparison, my comments are going to be short and sweet. I just really wanted to applaud the employee recognition that we had earlier. It was really amazing and really beautiful and a really great reminder of how awesome this district is and how awesome the teachers are in this district. Not that I needed reminding, I know that it's true, but I think this month has been really challenging. Well, not even this month, just since the last board meeting has been really challenging, as Travis said, with lots of negativity and lots of focus on a single issue that tends to come out in general. And people say things like teachers this and teachers that, and it really breaks my heart when I hear that, because if you look around our district, we are just loaded with incredible teachers doing beautiful and amazing things in their classrooms with love and kindness and inclusivity, and just, it's a beautiful thing. I have my granddaughter in one of those classrooms, and she comes home with the most amazing things. And you can tell that her teacher is just right on top of everything that's happening with so much love and attention. And I really hope that we can, when we have an issue, be careful not to generalize the issue, because we have so many incredible teachers, and we need to remember that through any hard time that we have. And then also, Travis, with our TPA, I really appreciated your message today. I think it is a incredibly positive step forward. I think we've all been excited to look forward in that same manner with cooperation and growth and just a whole new way of doing things than has been done in recent years. And I think we're all on board and on the same page with that. And is Chuck still here? Did he leave? No, I think he's gone. But we're excited about that with CCSA also. Oh, and also I want to thank Roger. It really was kind of a surprise to find out that he, behind the scenes, was doing a lot of stuff to advocate for the things he knows that we want as a board and the direction that we want to go in this district. And we were really grateful for his work and his efforts and him knowing what we want. I'm going to stop there tonight, and I'm sure a lot more will be said throughout the evening. What I will ask is that everyone just please remember to keep all of our hardworking, wonderful teachers in mind as they speak, and know that they're out there doing everything they can to teach our kids and make a wonderful environment for them.
Thank Thank you. Again, same thing, so it's great to see, I know we missed it last year with COVID and all the stuff, but great to have the certificated and the classified years of service. For those of you not in the room at the time, it's just great to see up here as a board member, you see teachers come through 10, 15, 20 years, and a lot of them have taught your kids, taught in your neighborhood. You've been around the schools, you've seen them. So just great to see that, see also the classified staff and just going through all that stuff. So it was really, really good to see the great staff, the teams, and the people we have in RUSD and just celebrate their years of service. So we are a better district for that. Again, Roger, thank you. I appreciate working with PCOE and hopefully communicating our expectations to the governor. Hopefully it will be better regarded, better than last time, and we'll get some better feedback. I can say myself, Rochelle, and Rick, we were at both Whitney and Rocklin this week. For those of you that don't, we have it's somewhat funny, but we have an antiquated dress code policy. We've been told that many times by the different students at the high schools and junior highs. It's a great opportunity to take a look at it. I think from a board policy standpoint, it would be relatively easy to sit down, redline something up, hammer the gavel, and move on. Our students have expressed some interest in sharing their ideas, what makes sense for them, what works, what doesn't work. I can say, just looking at the two different groups and the data they collected, they had somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 35% feedback from different kids at both schools, which is great. The good news is 75% of our population, this is a Whitney data, that have not been dress coded, so not a huge issue, but important to some folks. Great to see the survey analysis, great to see the kids interacting with it, working through it, and then getting that feedback from the parents, getting that feedback from the teachers, pulling all that stuff together, and then having the students have a voice and make a policy decision and present that, which is going to be a great thing. I think it's good to show the kids what the process is like. It's good for them to interact and see that you can't just pick one way, and that there's a really wide range between having a uniform policy where everyone dresses the same and having no school dress code policy. So they got to figure out what that mid-range is, and they're doing great work going through that. So look forward to seeing that. For those of you that don't know, we had 5 teams in the playoffs. So we had Whitney volleyball, Whitney football, Rocklin water polo, and Rocklin tennis. So far, we've had district or section champions in Rocklin water polo and Rocklin tennis. So congratulations to those teams. And then we still have, I guess, Rocklin football plays this week against St. Mary's. So hopefully we can keep that trend going and bring some section championships home to the district, which is always great. And then just finishing up, and again, based on the work that we've done with the students and having them interact, working together, I'm hoping that we can work together. We can work together from an RTPA standpoint, from a CSEA standpoint, come together on things, keep moving forward, not getting into so many disagreements on little things, working through and getting through the big stuff. And because I know, I would say all the teachers and the folks in the district, you got into the education and this because of the kids, and I'm hoping that's always the intent, and we can keep that intent in mind and we can move forward. So hopefully we can keep going in that path. And then I'll set it down.
This is a little tricky to be fourth, right? I was going to talk about our 2x2 with the city. I appreciate the collaboration and look forward to some of the projects that we've talked about working together on. They do have an event I wanted to share with our community as well on December 4th, the Light the City event at Quarry Park, which is awesome. Also, wanted to share that we had gone out to the high schools to gather student input. It's valuable to hear where they're coming from. We also are listening to staff and parents on that, and so we can get a really well-rounded approach as we move forward with that and make decisions in the future. You may notice I look extra relaxed today. I'm just kidding. But I did go today to Whitney High School. Emily Cavolt, who's a teacher there, invited me to come and participate in her new elective this year called Introduction to Mindfulness. And I loved it. It was amazing. She has spent the first part of the year teaching kids some tips and techniques about how to be more mindful. They've got a project that they were working on and are getting ready to report out on about the mindfulness that they are implementing in their life. We did a full meditation. I think Superintendent Stock, you've been as well and experienced it. It was great. And the students I was sitting next to at the table, I said, so what do you guys think about this before we kind of started? You know, like I was going to be on the down low, and they said, we think everybody should have to take this. This is the best part of our day. So it was really awesome, and I was really impressed by the job that she did, and I want to be sure that I publicly share that. Let's see. I too just want to let you know, Superintendent Stock, that we appreciate your efforts and your work on this letter. I also feel strongly that those points are, that we're clear about where we stand on those points, and that we want the local control, we want those exemptions to be kept, and that as a district, we need to revisit our mask policy because this is fluid. We are having litigation daily and consistently come through, and so we need to be sure that we are where we want to be as a district. Last thing I wanted to share was before we started, we had our recognition, and I know you guys have talked about it. It was awesome. The one thing that I wanted to add is that we had cowbells, we had instruments. Like it was so exciting to see actually the additional employees that came from schools to support those that had been there for serving so long. That was really, really great to see. Thanks.
Thanks. That's perfect time. I want to add on to that. The only thing that hasn't been said about the years of service is that, you know, spending time around the state it's actually abnormal to have that many senior teachers in a single district. Often people will spend a certain time and then go somewhere else, and we are the destination where they go. And I think it's a credit to our community and our district that people will stay here and want to be, and that you can have your grandkids in the system and be taught by and be on the board and be taught as someone that was teaching there, which is, I think, a great credit to us. The only other thing I say is, you know, obviously, as we all know, we have 3 priorities on the board around math, intervention, learning loss, and around dual enrollment, dual immersion. And so I've been trying to, you know, work through those and think about that. I've spent a bit of time, you know, since our last meeting around intervention, and I do want to just sort of call out our intervention teachers who are doing pretty amazing work in a difficult situation. I will say, the need, frankly, is greater, I think, than anyone anticipated coming off a difficult year, and I think there is a grade level gap throughout K through 12 of kids needing to be brought further faster. I'm not sure, even with the largesse we have and the person in every school, it's enough to really get to all the kids that we need, so I think we need to watch that carefully, but I do think there's some really great stuff going on, some good work, and I'm proud of the teachers, and I want to thank them and appreciate them for all that great work. And then finally, where Roger ended too, happy Thanksgiving. I've never seen a break more needed than this one. And so I hope people really, really enjoy their week. They've earned it, and bless you. Thanks.
Moving on to the consent calendar. All items listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion followed by a roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless the Board of Trustees, audience, or staff request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for specific discussion and action. Any agenda item removed will be voted on following the motion to approve the consent calendar. Does anybody wish to remove an item from the consent agenda for separate discussion and action? Seeing none. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
So moved.
Moved by Rochelle. Second. Seconded by Rick. Brenda, will you please call the roll?
Evan Pitts.
Aye.
Say yes.
Oh, yes.
Miller.
Aye. I gotcha. Whatever.
We're going with yes. Aye.
Del Price.
Yes.
Julie Hupp.
Yes.
Tiffany Stadhoff.
Yes.
Derek Counter.
Yes. All right, motion passes. Good job. Now on to item 9.1, action on AB 1200, bargaining disclosures for CSEA non-represented confidential and management employees. Barbara Patterson, Deputy Superintendent, Business and Operations.
Good evening, President Counter, Board of Trustees, and Superintendent Stock. In compliance with AB 1200, public disclosure of the cost of collecting bargaining arrangements must be made prior to the ratification of the agreements by the Board of Trustees. In the board packet is the AB 1200 document, which has been submitted to and reviewed by the Placer County Office of Education. It discloses the cost for a 4% cost of living adjustment to salary schedules of the following employee groups: CSCA, non-represented, confidential, and management. The projected cost is $1,306,673. This is for the general fund.
Are there any board comments or questions? Right. I don't think we have any public comment card on this one. All right. All right, roll call vote. Is there a motion to approve AB 1200 bargaining disclosures for CSEA non-represented confidential and management employees?
So moved.
Moved by Rick,
Second.
seconded by Julie. Brenda, will you please call the roll?
Evan Pitts,
Yes.
Rick Miller,
Yes.
Rochelle Price,
Yes.
Julie Hupp,
Yes.
Tiffany Stoutoff,
Yes.
Derek Counter.
Yes, motion passes. All right. Item 9.2, action on California School Employees Association tentative agreement and proposed salary schedules. Tony Limoges, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources.
Thank you, President Counter. Good evening, trustees, Superintendent Stock, Ms. Brenda. I'm going to be up there here for a minute, so I'll just kind of hang out here. Option 9.2 is on October 20th, 2021, the Board of Trustees was presented the CSEA Chapter 773 initial contract proposal and Rocklin Unified School District's initial contract proposal, which we refer to as the Sunshining Agreement. Once passed and a hearing occurred, we were able to meet on October 25th. On October 25th, RUSD and CSEA Chapter 773 reached a tentative agreement to resolve contract negotiations that included language to Article 3, Union Rights, Article 9, Evaluation Procedure and Probationary Period, and Article 25, Salary for the 2021-2022 school year. I probably just won't read this to you because everybody can read it out there, but what I'm going to recommend is a motion to take action on CSEA Chapter 773 tentative agreement and proposed salary schedule.
Any comments?
Oh, is Chuck here? Did he?
No.
So hopefully he's listening. I do want to, again, reiterate, and I appreciate his comments, but, and I appreciate the way this moved forward at the table, and they had clear desires of what they wanted. I think they were engaged. We got them away. I think I appreciate your flexibility, Tony, in thinking flexibly about how we can, recognize the overtime people that are paving work and make sure we're compensating for that, but also give a fair compensation across the board. And I think this was a great compromise, a great place, and I appreciate both your leaderships. And I do want to particularly call out Chuck for his help in making this happen. So thanks.
Yes, and definitely I would like to take a moment prior to making the motion is to thank CSEA, both their negotiating team and the negotiating team from the district. It's a great job, easy to work with, and we were able to get it accomplished rather quickly so we could get employees paid ultimately.
Excellent. All right. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
All right. Motion by Tiffany,
Second.
second by Rochelle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. All right. Item 9.3, action on Rocklin Confidential Employee Association tentative agreement and proposed salary schedule again.
As I've shared with the board previously, there are two direct negotiation bargaining units, RTPA, which represents our teachers, and CSEA, which represents a majority of our classified members. We have another group referred to as confidential, which is primarily office, but also some work out at the sites, which is a meet and confer group, so there is not a direct subject to negotiations there. On November 5th, 2021, the district met with the Rocklin Confidential Employees Association representative and agreed on salary changes which are in the line the district agreements with our bargaining units. On November 5th, the district and Rocklin Confidential Employees Association mutually entered into a tentative agreement for 2020-2021 school year as follows. Again, as I shared earlier, I don't feel it necessary to read the bottom piece, but I am recommending the board take a motion to take action on the tentative agreement with Rocklin Confidential Employees Association and proposed salary schedule.
questions?
I was just going to motion.
All right, go ahead.
So moved.
Motion by Julie, second by Rochelle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. Item 9.4, action on the salary increase and proposed classified non-represented salary schedule to match agreements with other bargaining groups. Again, Tony.
So another group that we, it's not a direct consult and confer, it's more of what we call memo negotiations, where they typically mirror a CSEA, and they receive a memo in regards to what that represent. They're called the non-represented employees. Primarily makes up some of our instructional aides and some other miscellaneous positions across the district. The district has reached a tentative agreement with the Rocklin Confidential Employee Association during the school year. We are extending those salary increases to the non-represented employees that have always been in practice in the district. Based upon the tentative agreement signed by the Rocklin Confidential Employees Association on November 5th, a proposed salary agreement for 2020-2021 school year is being forwarded to the board for approval for the non-represented group as follows. Tonight, I'm recommending an action to motion to the proposed non-represented salary schedule for 2021-2022.
Fair motion.
So moved.
Moved by Rick,
Second?
seconded by Rochelle. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. Item 9.5, action on Rocklin Administrative Professional Association tentative agreement and proposed salary schedule and Assistant Associate Deputy Superintendent salary schedule to match agreement with RAPA.
So another one of our consultant confer groups with the district is referred to as RAPA, which represents our Administrators Association. So Rocklin Professional Association. So also within this motion is the associate superintendents, the deputy superintendents included as well. So on November 4, 2021, the district met with Rocklin Administrators Professional Association president based on the tentative agreement with RAPA. The district and assistant, associate, and deputy superintendents have agreed to salary changes which are in line with the district's agreements with our bargaining units. The district and Rocklin and RAPA met on November 4th, 2021, and signed a tentative agreement for the 2021-2022 school year on salary only, and proposed salary agreement for 2021 and 2022 is being forwarded for the assistant, associate, and deputy superintendent salary schedule as follows. What I'm recommending is a motion to take action on the tentative agreement with the Rocklin Administrators Professional Association, the proposed salary schedule, and assistant, associate, and deputy superintendent salary schedule.
Sorry, do you want to?
So moved.
Second, although I do want to say something.
Second.
So as we, which is good. we can-
good,
so-
good.
So, as we close this down, our last thing, we sort of close the book on this year. I do, again, want to sort of thank everyone who was part of this. I want to thank our principals in particular during this moment and the great leadership they've shown during these times, and our confidential employees. But also, I do think, again, it's worth noting there are people still at the table bargaining right now. There are still contracts not signed. There are still folks trying to figure this out. And to Travis's great, I think let's not fool ourselves like we're in nirvana and everything's great, but this is a step forward. And it's worth stopping and noting that we're doing this in a way that worked for everyone, that we people can feel good about the process, and that every single every unit closed as a way to move forward, and we can focus on what we're here for, what's the teaching and learning. So again, I think there's a lot of optimism for going forward that we will continue to move down that path. So thank you to everyone.
So, seconded by Rick. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes.
So within our contract and on our website, there's also an area known as the extra assignment salary schedule, which we had brought to you previously as it relates to our RTPA positions. A few board meetings ago, there was a presentation in regards to the RAAC, or Rocklin Alternative Education Center, salary schedule, and the board had directed Superintendent Stock, which he had worked with me in regards to try to find some remedy for a salary schedule that hadn't been improved or evolved in many, many years. Previously, we presented this to the board. Superintendent Stock and I got an opportunity to go out and meet with RAAC teachers that are currently there and kind of present to them the new salary structure that I am presenting you this evening. So I want to give you a little background on this before I get to the verbiage that's in here. So Human Resources in collaboration with Cabinet reviewed the existing hourly salary schedule for Rocklin Alternative Education, RAAC teachers, and the need to develop a revised salary schedule to provide a compensation structure that increases compensation for years of experience as an independent study teacher. The recommendation being proposed to the board is to utilize a salary increase aligned with years of service in the RAAC program. So again, like on the previous ones, I will not take the time to kind of read the service that's there, but I am recommending a motion to take action on the proposed increases for RAAC as listed on the extra assignment salary schedule effective November 26, 2021.
A motion?
I move. So moved.
Moved by Rick.
Just a quick comment. I'd like to say thank you on that one. I know that we had comments on that, public comment before, and I know we talked and really looked at how can we address this and how can we look at it, and it needs to be addressed. And so I'm so appreciative that you took the time to do that and come to a positive conclusion together. So thank you.
Motion by Rick,
Second.
seconded by Rochelle. All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. 9.7, back up.
So, item 9.6 represents the human resources and respective bargaining units tying a bow around our previous negotiations. 9.7 and 9.8, we're opening the bow up again for another year. So even though we've ended one thing, we're starting again. Rocklin Teachers Professional Association has formally requested, or the term is sunshine. This is sunshining for the 22-23 school year. Its proposal for negotiations for the 2022-2023 contract year. District staff and RTPA leadership present the attached agreement as a proposal for acceptance by the Board of Trustees for the 2022-2023 contract year. If the proposal is accepted, staff, which is me, recommends the Board of Trustees hold a public hearing to accept comments from the public regarding the Rocklin Teachers Professional Association and Rocklin Unified School District's 22-23 initial contract proposal. Negotiations will begin following the public hearing. We actually have a date. It's December 1st. If I can see Travis.
First.
Yes.
You said it.
So I am recommending a motion to take action on the Rocklin Teachers Professional Association initial contract proposal and request for a public hearing. So it's two different actions for item 9.7. The approval and
We'll do the
hearing.
motion for 9.7,
Yep,
and then
we'll hold a public hearing.
we'll hold the public hearing, and then we'll open it up 9.8.
You betcha.
Okay. Make sure we're,
We'll do
okay.
it again.
All right. Board comments, questions? All right. We will now open a public hearing for public comment regarding the 2022-2023 initial contract proposal for RUSD and RTPA. Are there any public comments? This is on 9.7. I think we have a comment on 9.8, so we'll do 7, and then we'll open up 9.8 also. So,
Okay.
So that, no.
You have to close the hearing.
No, close the hearing. All right. Is there a motion to approve 2022-2023 initial contract proposal for RUSD and the Rocklin Teacher Professional Association? Moved by
So
Rick.
moved.
All right.
Julie.
Moved by Rick, seconded by
Seconded.
Julie. All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Now 9.8.
So the other side of the sunshine proposal was, we previously discussed RTPA, now it would be RUSD's proposal. The Rocklin Unified School District annually presents Sunshine's proposal for negotiations with Rocklin Teachers Professional Association for the next school year. The district is now presenting to the Board of Trustees for approval its proposal to RTPA for the 22-23 school year. If the proposal is accepted, the Board of Trustees are to hold a public hearing to accept comments from the public regarding the Rocklin Teachers Professional Association and Rocklin Unified School District's 2022-2023 initial, I'm tired of saying those two words, proposals. Negotiations will begin, as I shared with you, December 1st. I am recommending a motion to take action on the 22-23 district proposal for negotiations with RTPA and to hold a public hearing, again, two separate actions.
All right. We'll now open a public hearing for public comment regarding the 2022-2023 initial contract proposal for Rocklin Teacher Professional Association. I have Kurt Weidman for public comment. Kurt Weidman, I'll read it. Kurt Weidman, Valley View Elementary School, and he lives in Rocklin. You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. What I would like the board to consider is maybe merit pay for good and great teachers, and maybe exchange with the union for an expedited process to terminate poor performing teachers, and also ones that don't comply with the district policies or the contract that they've signed. So I think we need to also open up that process. So if we've got repeat offenders, that gets handled out in the open. The rest of my time I'd like to use to go over a little U.S. history, since obviously there's some issues over at Whitney High School. I'm not actually teaching U.S. history. In your pocket, well, not in my pocket, but maybe in your pocket, there's a $5 bill and a $20 bill. $5 bill has a picture of Abraham Lincoln, first Republican president. The Republican Party was founded on one issue, the abolition of slavery. That was founded in 1854 and was founded in actually a little white schoolhouse in Ripon, Wisconsin. So to actually associate the Republican Party with the KKK is misinformed and it's bad teaching. So any teacher that would teach that probably is substandard and should be removed just for cause for not being able to actually do their job.
So,
The second, and I've got a minute and 30, but the second, if you pull out a $20 bill, that's a picture of Andrew Jackson, the first Democrat president of the United States, a slave owner who posted an ad in Nashville newspaper on June 25th, and I'm not sure the exact year, $50 reward for the return of a 30-year-old, 6-foot-tall man slave. So the first Democratic president was a slave owner. He also was the author of the Trail of Tears that moved Indians from Florida out to Oklahoma into the Indian territories. So I think, once again, we want to be able to teach history in our classrooms. The Democratic Party for at least 100 years was the party of slavery. It was the party of the KKK. It was Ross Burnett, the Democratic governor of Mississippi, that stood in the door to block James, I'm trying to think of the last name.
Kurt, this is a public hearing on the contract proposal.
Well, I just want to make sure we're teaching history.
Fair,
And this is,
fair.
we got 3 minutes of history when we get 0 at Whitney High School. So, so just to wrap up, I got 16 seconds. If we could get the history taught in the classrooms and none of the political opinion, I mean, this is political opinion, but I'm allowed that with free speech. Free speech is not guaranteed within the classroom. Need to teach the curriculum. Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the 2022-2023 initial contract proposal from Rocklin Teachers Professional Association?
So moved.
Moved by Rochelle,
Second.
seconded by Rick. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Item 9.9, approve Victory High School school plan for student achievement. Hannah Anderson.
Good evening, President Counter, trustees, Superintendent Stock. I am joined tonight by Principal Hutton to share an update on our 2021-2022 Comprehensive Support and Improvement Plan. Also, this is included in the school plan for student achievement for Victory High School. During this presentation, we will share with you how schools become qualified for comprehensive support and improvement and what needs to be included in their plan for approval each year. We will also provide a brief update on some of the highlighted actions from the 2020-2021 school year and some of the results that led to some changes on their campus for this school year. We will also provide an update on this year's plan, and then at the conclusion, request approval of our school plan for student achievement or their comprehensive support and improvement plan for the 21-22 school year. In order to qualify for comprehensive support and improvement in the state of California, you need to qualify in one of two ways. You would qualify either with a low graduation rate, which we do not have at Victory High School, or you would qualify because of the California dashboard. In the case of Victory High School, and some of the indicators on that. In the case of Victory High School, in the 2019 school year, which was the 2018-2019 school year, that was the last year we had a comprehensive California school dashboard in the state of California. During that year, Victory High School's indicators were all in the red and the orange. And they don't actually have all 5 indicators because of the small student population that is at their school. So it's really in 3 indicators where they were in the red and the orange. Because we have not had a California school dashboard since the 2018-19 school year, all schools that were qualified during this year have continued to be qualified since that time. We anticipate that were there to have been a dashboard in the previous last 2 years, we actually would have not had all red and orange indicators, that we would have made progress in specifically the suspension indicator and would have moved out of that orange status and would have moved us out of comprehensive support and improvement. However, we're going to take this we're going to actually take this as an opportunity. And when I've had the opportunity to work with Principal Hutton and his team, we really are looking at this as an opportunity to how can we use the funds that are associated with this program to do great work for the students and to provide resources that are needed for these students and the teachers who teach them. So although right now we are still in comprehensive support and improvement, it does actually come with funds that can only be used at this school and to serve these students. And so we take that as an opportunity for as many years as we have the funds to continue serving them with these dollars. In this plan that we brought last year and we are bringing a revised version for approval this year, we know that it needs to be locally developed and needs to be tied to student outcomes. We know that it needs to include state indicators, and we do anticipate that at the end of this year we'll have those state indicators back to be published in next December. We know that this needs to be based on their school level needs assessment, and that is inclusive of the voices of the educators at that school. We know that we need to put in place evidence-based interventions, and also we need to be addressing resource inequities that exist for these youth with these funds. Last year, we had a plan that put in place improvement efforts for these 5 resource inequities, and we shared in a lot more detail in previous meetings about what the specific inequities were. They were related, in many cases, we bolstered curriculum. We were working on increasing the personnel to serve students in both the math area, science area, and to support social emotional wellness. And Principal Hutton is going to talk specifically, we're going to highlight 2 actions this evening. We want to make sure both of those are also in alignment with the other district-wide plans we have around increasing math improvement and social emotional well-being. So we're trying to, as we are with all of our plans in the district, tie these together so that we're all unified in the work we're trying to do to improve outcomes for students. So with that, Principal Hutton.
Thank you, Hannah. Good evening, President Counter, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Stock. It is always good to see you here. Oops, excuse me. I just advanced this without meaning to. I will say that I am and I always do, I'm the very proud principal of the Rocklin Alternative Education Center, mostly because I love what I do. and I love who I do it with and who I do it for. So it's always exciting for me to have this opportunity, and while it doesn't present itself often, I like to take advantage of it as fully as possible. And so what I wanted to do is just walk through the following 6 or 7 slides, and I promise to go through them as quickly as your schedule will allow and time will permit. But one of the things that I want to talk about, first of all, is the 5 goals that were mentioned previously. Hannah alluded to the fact that we're going to focus on 2 of them because while all of those goals are important to our school and the success of the program, we knew based on our students and what we were up against both in the time and in the future, we wanted to look at our mathematics and our social emotional. From a mathematics standpoint, you may recall from either your visits when you came out to campus or the last time that I presented, we talked about the fact that when our students that transfer to Victory High School, if they are in need of math, 100% of them, and that holds true even this year, 100% of them have not yet passed Integrated 1. So part of the reason that they're coming over is that innate struggle that they're having. And so we take great pride in the fact that we are able to help them pass those classes and get them to where they want to be. But of course in the CASP, that's an indicator that is very important to the state, and so we are bound to that. So we focus a lot of that time and attention on the mathematics. And then the other piece of it too is that you may recall that nearly 1/3 of all of our students fall into a category that is deemed high risk or moderate risk. And this is based on our co-vitality assessments. It's a social emotional inventory that all of our students come over. So when we have numbers like that, having a social emotional support and a robust one is so critical to our student success. If those basic needs are not met, then there's no way, you know this, there is no way that those academics are going to fall into place. So that is a primary and a central focus of ours. Okay? So a couple things that I'd really like to highlight, and I'm going to focus on the goals that we have set over on the actual outcomes. And so a couple things that I wanted to point out is that when we look at our numbers, for instance, 13% of our students in the CASP score had met or exceeded standards. And while we did have a goal of 20%, the obvious mathematics there is that we missed it by 7%. I feel I would be remiss if I didn't remind this team, and we do, we take full accountability for our successes and even some of our failures, I'll say. But it's important to note that on average, the students who are coming to Victory High School before taking that CASP have been with us for between 5 and 5.5 months on average. The other part of it is, as I alluded to already, they haven't yet had a success in Integrated 1, let alone 2 and 3, which oftentimes those are parts of the assessment and so require. So we take a little bit of pride in that jump, even that 13%, but we recognize that we have some work to do. We also like to look at the ALEX diagnostic that we adopted last year, and we feel that that is a much more indicative indicator of student success because it is a progression. It is growth monitoring, and it allows our students to not only see and feel the growth within them, but it also allows our teachers to focus on particular areas in which they can center in on and take the extra time in a small class that Victory High School offers to help bolster those scores. Because, and it's noted there, because of district alignment, we have gotten away from ALEX this year. So I regret that numbers that we're looking at again this year, it's difficult to be able to compare those when we meet again. But one of the things that I do want to emphasize, and I think it's real important because we are going to continue to work towards this goal, just like the district is. But again, we have had 0% of our math students. This is again based on our IXL results. This year, the initial window, we had 0% of them that tested at grade level. Our highest grade level was an 8th grader. Our lowest was a 3rd, and almost 85%, 84.6% of our students tested between kindergarten and 6th grade. So we again recognize that we have a lot of work to do, but the work is very important. And so I applaud, and I'm sorry, but again, we are a small, but we're a mighty team, and we have, our math department consists of one teacher, and Mrs. Mangelsdorf, they call her Mathy Kathy. She's phenomenal. And the work that she is doing with these students to make them successful, I would say it's unparalleled. And I know that that sounds exorbitant, but I really believe that it is true. So, moving on. Let's see, goal number 4. Goal number 4 really talks about my most important value, and that is the social emotional well-being of our students. So I speak very passionate about it, and I'm gonna stand up here and I'm gonna take a lot of pride for the results that we've had. And I know I've shared these numbers with some of you in the past, but I just can't help myself. You know, we looked at, and if I believe the numbers are all in front of you too, but on the very right-hand side, we've got the actual outcome data. And we looked at our cohort data, and what we found was that, thankfully, there was a 7% decrease in the number of students identified at high risk or moderate risk, and even still more important to me, an 11% increase in the number of students identified as high or moderate thriving. So we have taken down this group that is really at risk. And I want to remind you that it's difficult at our school to get a cohort of data at any given time. But when we start to mine this data, that is exactly what we look for, and that's what I'm speaking to now. So the same group of students that were really struggling, we've now seen a significant improvement in them. And when we just anecdotally, when we're meeting with them, the most common response we get is that they feel cared for. And when we start looking at additional data that supports that, like the California Healthy Kids Survey, where you can see the numbers there yourself, but there was a 20% increase, or 74% of the students reported that they felt connected to school. And in case you're wondering, I can't help myself here, the California continuation schools average is 49%. So a significant increase. Now, Evan's up there. I don't know if you want to speak to this. I know I put you on the spot there, my friend, but have you got anything? I mean, anything that you'd like to say?
Well, as a student coming from Victory High School, I feel way more connected with teachers more than anything, and they help me out through not only my education, but through my life as well. And I feel like that's not more important, but what the main thing should be as the student more than anything. And that's what Victory High School focuses on.
I love that. I like that. Vinny, would you like to say anything? Nope. I'm sorry, guys, please.
Put her on the spot. Hi. So I originally came from Rocklin High School and transferred into Victory mid-sophomore year towards the end. And I noticed that it was a complete culture shock in a way, because Rocklin's a big school. There's a lot of different kinds of people, a lot of different personalities and opinions, and a lot of clashes, which is a big thing that I noticed that was completely different when I came here. People have different opinions, and they dress differently, they talk differently, but people are who they are, and that's kind of what I love about this school. And the teachers do an amazing job of being incredibly supportive of everybody despite differences, and like they take into account what we've been through and why we're here in the first place. And that's something that I have always adored about this school, and I will continue to adore, because I know that's something that's just gonna increase and get even stronger. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Vinny. Like I said, I'm sorry I can't help myself. You know, I just think it's refreshing to hear it from somebody other than me. All right, so similar to years past, our task at the end of every school year, the Victory High School team, we get together and we do a needs assessment. We do a data equity walk. We are looking at how can we do things better, and for the very reasons that have just been presented to you. Based on that needs assessment and the equity walk, the team agreed that while we had some tweaking to do, those 5 goals that we had in place were the essentials that we needed to carry forward. Most of the tweaking that was taking place was essentially based on the pre-indicators that we have. We have an opportunity to meet with our students, our upcoming freshmen, sophomore, that are coming from the comprehensive settings. So those counselors will invite us in, and we get to meet those families in advance. So those are the pre-indicators that I'm referring to. Let's see, excuse me, bear with me here. So jumping ahead to our goals, we talked about those goals. We do have 5 of them. 1, 3, and 4 are repeat goals as it's suggested there. And goals 2 and 5 have just been slightly revised. The goals 1, 2, 3, and 5 directly relate to the California Dashboard Accountability System. And although social emotional well-being is not part of that indicator, as you've already heard, that's such an important piece of this. And so we insist on maintaining that as one of our goals to work towards. All right, I'm almost through here, folks, I promise you that. So what we're talking about now is just, I'm highlighting the highlights. So we have 5 goals there, and really what I'm trying to point to is more of the differences between what they looked like last year and the direction that we're going this year. We increased our communication plan in terms of tardiness. You may recall that that was a big deal for us in years past. And with increasing our communication, reaching out to students and families and trying to bolster the support that we could have, making minor tweaks in what we do there on campus, we were able to improve that significantly. So we've moved away from focusing on those tardies and really are focusing more on the positive interventions and then restorative practices, excuse me. And then we also have some very small group interventions that have gone a long way in a short amount of time. And so we have secured additional resources to help carry that forward. From a CTE perspective, and this is a tricky one for us, you guys have heard us say this before, we're really working diligently with our comprehensive settings than we had in the past. But there were shortcomings that came with that, particularly because of the challenges of our scheduling. So the idea of maybe having some of the, I'm sorry, forgive me, I'm looking for the word, not the capstone, but the, what's the word, I'm sorry?
Completer?
The, what is it?
For them to be a completer? That final course?
The first 2 courses. Anybody help me? Anyways, concentrated course, thank you very much, I'm sorry. So having those courses in place and students involved in those at the comprehensive settings, and then coming over and coordinating a capstone course and making sure that we're maintaining the hours is a difficult, a daunting task. And despite our best efforts, it's been very difficult to pair that up. So now what we're doing is we're looking at what type of software, and I think you're familiar with Edgenuity now, we're utilizing that and making offerings to students in order to accommodate the CTE requirement. For academics, you've already heard me talk about the mathematics as a center point for us. We have introduced a personal finance class, which we are finding that students are really enjoying because it is a life skill that so many of them lack. And then we are fully utilizing IXL now. Much of the data that I shared with you is already from that, and we're delighted to be doing so. From a social emotional well-being standpoint, you can see the numbers are there, but some of the things that I just want to talk about is that we've enhanced our elective course offerings. We've expanded what was called Quest. It's our life skills class. We have expanded broadcasting, which is Mrs. Gamble's, that's her baby. We have an art class that was reintroduced, and students are loving that, music appreciation. So some of those things that are really geared towards bringing and building school connectedness. And then additionally, for all students that come to our school, I already mentioned that they're being involved in co-vitality, so that's one of the first things that we work with them on is that social emotional screener. But then we have the designated ambassador program for students in our school, particularly our seniors. And so they're being introduced to those new students, and that's helping them integrate into our program. So the last one is the graduation rate. We know how important that is. Hannah already alluded to it, that it's not a significant issue. We feel strongly that we're making great strides in that. But one of the things that I do want to just compliment this board, because I do know that you were part of it, was the introduction of EduClimber. Because we had a wellness tracker. We have a wellness tracker we've used for the last 2 years. And while the data we found was so instrumental in identifying students and where they were struggling, and it captured everything between academics, attendance, discipline behavior, social emotional elements, those were all being drug in manually. And so in this short amount of time, we just were introduced, thanks to Hannah, to EduClimber last week, and we've already seen the benefits from that, just the efficiencies that are gained by accessing the information that we need in order to reach out to our students sooner than later. With that, I return it to Hannah.
Thank you so much. Okay, so our next steps. Tonight we're here to request approval of the CSI plan. We will continue to implement the goals and actions and address needs as well as continue to utilize those tools of improvement science, trying to try things on a small scale. An example of that Principal Hutton shared was In previous years, last year, we actually contracted with Placer County Office of Education to have a one-day-a-week support, similar to a student support practitioner who could come in and help them scale up their positive behavior intervention and support efforts, and also run some of their Tier 2 social, emotional, or behavioral focused groups, and help them with their data systems related to this and really hone in on what they needed to work on. When they looked at the data of the students coming in this year, they were able to see they were going to need to ever so slightly tweak what that focus of that person was going to do to be able to do, in addition to helping with those pieces of the kind of the system at the school. They also knew that they were going to need more support focused on that mental health piece for the direct support to students. And so they made a change this year to increase that FTE to a 50% contracted person to help just provide additional support so teachers can be teaching and students can be getting those mental health supports that they need on top of what teachers provide and what both students actually shared. And that's not unique what these students shared here. We hear that every single year, and Trustee Price was out with us last year and heard it directly from the students during their LCAP student forum. So really special place there. Okay, we're going to continue utilizing feedback from the staff and also their school site council, which is inclusive of parents, students, and school staff, to inform these plans. And then we include our Victory High School staff in our LCAP planning process to the greatest extent possible to make sure that their plan is in alignment with the district's LCAP. So with that, we are here to answer any of your questions and would also like to request approval of Victory High School's 2021-22 school plan for student achievement. Thank you.
I can start. Thank you. I always know we're going to have a detailed quality presentation, so thank you. I appreciate that. I've been very open and public with all of the praise for Victory High School, and I know that that starts with you, Principal Hutton, and I appreciate all of your efforts and how genuine and sincere, and I know that these students really feel that you care and that your staff cares, and it's so obvious when we are there. And I just wanted to give a shout out to, you know, there was one of the slides that shows 96% of students have demonstrated growth. Whatever that growth is, big or small, we really do care that there is growth, and to have 96% is awesome. So I'm going to get out there and meet Kathy. Awesome.
Appreciate that.
That's awesome.
Again, thank you. Thank you for putting this together. I was going to say, thank you for putting this together. Thank you for, thanks for having the metrics aligned. That makes it really nice to tie it all together. And I love the fact that we're expanding the CTE part at Victory. So that's just great things, great initiatives to bring that piece into it. And I think that completes, you know, just adds on to the great things you guys are doing, though. So thank you. Tiffany, go ahead.
Yeah, I too am thankful for the detail, especially the board packet, the 31-page packet. I did read it. I went through it all. So thank you for all of those metrics and those pieces, because I know you take it very seriously. And so I don't think we need to even look into some of that, because I know that you are looking at these and saying, what can we do better? And I appreciate that. That is incredible leadership when we celebrate our successes, but we also are open with what can we do better, and let's do better. So I do just two comments. One, Principal Scott, being out on your campus, you create a culture of family, and we say that here. You feel it when you're on your campus. When I got to have lunch with your teachers, the stories they were telling, the sharing, they weren't having a board member present, and I wasn't feeling like, hey, let me tell you what I want, right? And which is okay, but it was a genuine love for what they do, and that's top-down leadership. So thank you for doing that. Also the students, when I got to go out and do that forum with the students and they were talking, I heard 3 different things you said tonight as goals that I actually heard and saw students raise their hand in that meeting last year saying, I would like this. I want to acknowledge that because I think that shows we're listening to our students. We're saying, hey, I need more help with financial planning. I need more help with this, the life skills. And I heard you call those out tonight. And so I want to recognize that because as a trustee, that's really, really important. When our students say, hey, I have a concern, I need help, we're actually making it happen. Also, I want to offer to help. So goal 3 and 4, totally understand why we're focusing on those. Support 100%. Page 7 actually caught my eye. It was goal 2 in the packet, CT, and I just was actually wondering while you were talking if that could be something we help with our Focus on the Students Night or with our city, if there was a way, who could I connect with to see how I could help with, I think you specifically put on there that we need to research, recruit internships here in Placer County for our students to participate in. We have some phenomenal businesses and some phenomenal nonprofits that have reached out saying we want to help. Who do I connect them to? What's the next step?
If you want to come to our site, certainly you can reach out to me. I would enjoy that completely.
Okay, I don't want to overwhelm. I didn't know who's taking care of that goal.
Okay. Yeah, certainly, and it would likely be Mrs. Kassler and I that would start that initiative. We are very fortunate that we secured a contract with Placer County Office of Education representative, and she is supporting us on a social worker aspect and also that internship coordination effort. So the 3 of us probably would just start that and run with it.
Great. Okay, I don't want to put more on your plate because goal 3 and 4 are huge. But any way I can help with goal 2 to make those connections in the community, I'd love to. I think it's great what you're doing. Thank you.
We appreciate it.
So much has been said already, but sorry, Rick, I didn't mean to step on. But I just wanted to say, I too have been out on Victory's campus, and it really is a wonderful place to be. And I got to go around to each of the classrooms and meet the teachers and see what they do and hear their passion. And spending time with you, Scott, listening to all that you do for the students and hearing what others say about all that you do for the students was wonderful. And I love that you called some students out tonight and we got to hear from them here. That was awesome. And so keep up the good work. We appreciate you very much, and we know you're working really hard and doing great things for our students.
I think this is, I appreciate this. This is great work. I agree completely on focusing on growth, and that's where we're going to actually see the difference. I will also say, as I know you agree, that growth is part of it, but standard achievement also matters, and paying attention to both is where we need to be, and we should absolutely celebrate growth, and then we should make sure we're focused on where we're going. So the 2 goals that I wanted to, one, I would say, 2 goals that I want to call particularly. One is the CTE, which I think is great, but also one thing that I did, as I read through the SIPSA, one thing I wasn't as clear to me is what the clear goal is around Victory. And I think the one thing I've learned as I spend time is that people come to Victory for lots of different reasons. I mean, talking to Evan, it's a very different reason than a lot of kids I've heard of why they go there. But at the end of the day, what they go there is it works for them. It's an academic decision that works for them. But thinking about then where we take them, what you clearly described today, and so if you think about where we're trying to, it seems to me that and I want to push as much as I can for our comprehensive high schools to be A through G as our goal. We are trying to get kids ready for college and career, and their choice. I understand it's not possible. We are not going to get A through G, but having some post-secondary options should be our goal at Victory, which is to say that may be a community college. And when I say community college, being ready for credit-bearing coursework, that could be a certification program through BMW for whatever, and but that we're thinking about how we are moving through. CT is a pathway, and then what are the other pathways to making sure that we are, that is our goal, and that is where we're focused. And so I'd love to sort of see that as well through it. The other thing is on mathematics, and Scott, frankly, what I heard you say, those are some daunting numbers, and while there's a lot to celebrate here, we have to pause, and that is devastating. And we see it again and again in mathematics throughout the district. So it's not surprising to me. But what I think we also know is that what you articulate tonight is, sadly, by the time they get to Victory, from an articulation perspective, we know that Integrated 1 or Algebra 1 is a huge gatekeeper. If we've lost that opportunity and they hit you, it's too late then to sort of turn around and move forward. And the numbers show it, the incredibly low proficiency. And so, Marty, I'll turn to you. So this notion of, so what is the job of a comprehensive system? Like we are a district. And so what is Whitney and Rocklin's responsibility in this as we think through how do we make sure that from the freshman year, if we're losing kids and now we're doing interventions, what's happening? Like, I'd like to actually look at our new incredible data system, which is amazing, and what can we learn about the kids who are at Victory and where they were in the freshman year, and where do we seem to lose it, and then how can we double down on not just doing it at Victory, but, and again, I still want them to go to Victory, but I want them to go to Victory better prepared to be successful at Victory, and how can we think about that as a system to move us forward? But this is great, and I would also say, there may be, like, it's frustrating that they can't get there till they're 16, and I understand the tracking reasons why the statute reads, but it may not work in our case. And so I do wonder if there's an opportunity to talk to AXA, to talk to someone member Kylie. Could there be statutory change that allows some piloting or some flexibility around, if the data shows it's appropriate, we can move more quickly into a setting that's more likely to be successful for these kids. So anyway, I want to thank you, appreciate it, and looking forward to continuing the conversation.
We have a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Rochelle,
Second.
seconded by Tiffany. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. All opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes.
Thank you.
Scott. Thank you,
Very
guys.
much. Thanks, Scott.
All right. Excellent. That is a good one. All right. Now, information item 10.1, Universal Transitional Kindergarten Update. Dr. McDonald, Associate Superintendent, Elementary Education and Services.
Good evening, President Counter, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Stock. I'm excited to be here tonight to talk about not a new program, but an expanding program, Universal TK. For about a decade now, California has been inching towards the promise of providing early childhood education for all students. We have a very small universal transitional kindergarten slice currently. With a couple good budget years in place, the state, the governor has approved through AB 130 the expansion of our transitional kindergarten program that will allow hundreds of more young students, 3- and 4-year-olds, to enter transitional kindergarten over the next 4 years. And this is a big deal. It's sort of an all play. It will impact our facilities, ed services, obviously, staffing, our budget. So I'm going to share a little bit with you tonight about what that looks like overall. This will involve, like I said, AB 30, the program structure, staffing, facilities, curriculum and pedagogy, and how we're getting stakeholder input and communication and the next steps we're taking. So the main legal requirements of AB 130 are two pieces. One of them is the expansion of TK. If you look at this timeline over years, currently, again, we're September 2nd birthdays to December 2nd birthdays. That is all the kids included in our current TK class. Every year going forward, we're going to expand that by 2 months. We're going to expand to February 2nd, April 2nd, June 2nd, and all the way to September 1st. And if you're good at your math, you're going to see that in 25-26, that means we will have 3-year-olds entering our TK program who are born in late August. So this is an entirely different program that's going to require some thinking and forethought as we move forward. The other big requirement we'll get to in the next couple of slides, I want to talk about projected growth first, is the staffing requirement. But just based on the projections that I just showed you, each year we are adding about 100 4-year-olds into our school district, which is great because they'll be able to spend the next 13 years in a fantastic school district. You can look at the years there. You see next year we're projected for 220, 316, 404, all the way up to about 500 students in 25-26. And clearly that has an impact in terms of staffing in classrooms and program. Program structure is going to be an important consideration. Currently, universal TK minutes would be aligned to kindergarten, defined as not less than about 200 minutes or 3 hours and 20 minutes daily to meet a 36,000 minimum requirement. However, there's considerations for the length of the day. There's various grant opportunities aligned with universal TK. One of them, ELO funding, would require a 9-hour day, including before and after school programs. And that would include partnerships with preschools and local child care providers as well. There is also state facilities funding tied to districts offering of full-day TK, which means there's money to build new facilities if we require that. There's also local considerations for the length of the instructional day. They include TK program hours. Currently, we're at 5.5 hours daily. There's student age and attention span. There's balancing academics and play-based learning. We're in a period of declining enrollment. Clearly, this helps along the bottom line. And then the needs and wants of the greater Rocklin community in terms of hours for a TK program. Staffing is a major part of AB 130. The biggest difference is beginning next year. They're asking for 2 adults for every classroom or 1 adult for every 12 people. So a typical classroom at this age is 24 students. That would mean we need 2 adults in the classroom all day. If we are to have a good budget year, the projection from the state or the prediction is that we'd move that to 1 adult for every 10 pupils going forward, which is a major staffing shift. As you can imagine, currently we're 1 to 24 or 1 to 32 in elementary school. What could that possibly look like? That's another consideration. Could look like 2 teachers for 20 to 24 students. If that was the case, we would need to hire 13 additional TK teachers just next year. And in the following year, 8, and in total we'd have 44 new TK teachers over the next 4 years, which is significant. And remember that we would be competing with every other school district in the state of California for these limited pool of TK teachers. Also, it is adults, not teachers. There's the idea of 1 teacher with a 6-hour instructional aid would reduce the number of teachers we need, but increase, obviously, instructional aids. And then it's also been put forward in some circles, a teacher with a preschool teacher, especially with the younger students. So there's different ways to meet that 2 adults ratio, and we're looking at all those different options. Credential requirements have also changed, making this a little more complicated. So we're working with human resources. Teachers in TK by August 1st, 2023, we have about a year window. They would need the multiple subject credential, which all our teachers have, and 24 semester units of early childhood education, or experience working in this age range, or a early childhood permit, a preschool permit. So those things will be coming down the pipe, and we're working closely with HR and actually our local colleges to open some pipelines for recruiting. We can also look at current employees and evaluate their early childhood education credits. Did they take courses in their coursework that would apply for this? And the good news is we get discretion over making that decision. Did they have experience? And then again, Sierra College is willing to partner with us to open up cohorts for as many credits as teachers need. So our USD is interested in doing tuition reimbursement for teachers interested in pursuing additional credits to get this credential. Tony and I have already met with a group of teachers who are interested. We did an initial survey. We had about 24 teachers show interest, and so we're working with them to move that forward. Facilities are also needed. So TK is legally considered kindergarten. If we do have new classrooms, they have to be 1,350 square feet. There needs to be restrooms, ideally in the classrooms, but they can be in the complex. And then they need to be near a playground that's TK or kindergarten designed for those age students. Looking more closely at what I showed you earlier, the breakdown of where these classes would land. Next year we would project 10 classes. This year we have 7, so we're growing by 3. We would have TK at 9 of our 11 sites. By 2023, we'd have a TK class at every single one of our school sites, including our new school, Quarry Trail. And then going forward, we'd add additional TK classes at every site, most having 2 by 25-26 for an additional 22 classrooms needed. So I'm working with Craig closely to look at all our facilities, which rooms meet the requirements, where can we put them? We do want one at every school. We think it's important that we have this pipeline moving forward. So that work is currently happening as well. Questions and considerations. Are there enough classrooms? We do have matching grant money, potentially 75% funded by the state, 25% by our USD to build up to 4 TK classrooms, or our TK classroom complex. Do current classroom facilities need to be upgraded? Do we need to add bathrooms, playgrounds to accommodate all these new students? And then again, do we invest in the new construction? Finally, a huge consideration is what does the curriculum and the program look like for TK? These are younger students. They are not kindergarten students. You know, every 4 or 5 months at this age is a big span in these students' lives. So it's a very different child we're teaching when they come in this young. So we're really combining like best practices from kindergarten with this transitional year and then the readiness for kindergarten. But it does involve at this age a lot of play-based learning, a lot of socialization. Of course, there's the academic components, but they should be woven into those other pieces, absolutely. We've put together a UTK steering committee. It's comprised actually of, I think, 7 out of 8 of our current TK teachers. We have representatives from Sierra College and other folks, administrators, teachers, and they'll be working to identify a curriculum that aligns with state requirements. We want a philosophy or pedagogy that will be appropriate, play-based learning, experiential learning, authentic opportunities for socialization, and then again, that coupledness with readiness for kindergarten. Questions. How do we meet the social, emotional, behavioral, and needs of these students? What does effective instruction look like for 3 and 4-year-olds? How do we make it engaging and ensure that it's safe for students this age? How will the needs of English learners be addressed? What practices will support students with special needs at this age? What initial and ongoing professional development will allow teachers and staff to be most effective in this very new role? Again, I mentioned the TK Steering Committee. We have a great committee of lots of different partners that's working to make these decisions for us and help move this forward. The good news is next year we're adding 3 classes, but it's not a huge change. The extension is to February. In January, as we typically do, we'll be opening a mid-year TK class for December and January birthdays. That will be basically what we've done for the past 4 years. That will happen next year at the beginning of the year. So not a major shift, so we have a little time to make these decisions and prepare. But that steering committee will be working on program structure, recruitment, facilities, and of course that curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment piece. Next steps, it's still developing. So at the state level, we're still waiting for some answers about instructional minutes and other pieces. We do want to finalize definitely facilities because that's a long-term piece we have to look at. We want to look at pathways for recruitment and credentialing of teachers who are interested. Work to partner with local preschools. So local preschools are worried. This is a big shift for them, and I think we can help each other be successful in this situation. And then ongoing communication with you all and the rest of the community. Our next committee meeting is December 14th. We'll be discussing facilities and then really starting a longer discussion about curriculum and pedagogy. And that's it. Questions and feedback.
I got just a few questions. The 1,350 square feet, does that include the bathroom, or is that the building by itself plus bathroom? It includes it, okay. And then, is this built-in, I guess, is it portable also, or is it, these are all built-ins, or don't know yet?
I'm on facilities.
Good evening. So if we use the state money and we decide to tap into that, the state funding for the 4 permanent construction buildings, they're called PC buildings, they're not portable buildings, then we would qualify for the state money.
Okay.
So they would be considered permanent buildings.
Okay. And then
Is that matching? Sorry,
It's
does that require matching?
75% state, 25% local. And it's one time. So every district in the state will have an opportunity
Right.
to get that. It's a one time for the 4 buildings.
And that's in 25, 26? I mean, do we have a few years for that, or is that this year?
Well, as we were talking about earlier, is that the program's just rolling out, so the State Allocation Board will be finalizing the program on December 7th at their meeting downtown Sacramento. And once that comes out, we were told by our eligibility consultant that if we're going to move forward that way with our facility needs to get in line as soon as we can for the funding.
And it's first come, first serve?
They're not sure yet.
It might be means tested.
The intent was for every school district to have
Means
one
tested.
opportunity.
Okay.
An opportunity to do that, but we were,
So
don't know yet.
So to Barbara's look at me, there's a reasonable chance that even if we got in, because it was means tested, we'd fall below and we wouldn't qualify anyway.
The guidelines haven't been finalized yet, because there was a
No,
lot
I
of concern. There was a lot of concerns from other school districts
For
of
that
how that's
exact
going to lay
reason.
out. Is it first come, first served yet? They're still trying to work out those details.
All right, Derek.
You're good, you're good. And then, I guess, one I didn't see, but just curious, for universal, do we have busing, or is busing not?
We wouldn't need busing
Just 3
necessarily.
and 4-year-olds on a bus, that's a whole.
Right, and it's usually not something that's popular at that age, but
Want to make sure.
that's why we want them at every site.
So, Another question. So on slide 5, I didn't catch this earlier, but as you said it, as a mom of an almost 3-year-old, I'm thinking, 25, 26. That year, we have 24 3-year-olds in one classroom. That, I honestly can't even imagine that at this moment. I'm going to say that publicly and be okay saying that publicly.
It's okay.
But with that, I think the hours of the day, well, no, just the hours of the day, though, slide 5, looking at it. So are we able, and I don't want this to be too much in the weeds, but I do think this will be a very important question parents will ask. The second bullet point, when it says ELO funds, if we accept that grant, do we have to make sure the days are 9-hour days, or can we still have there be parent-elect options for a 3.5-hour day?
So we are considering whether we want to accept that grant because it requires a 9-hour day with other providers before and after. We don't have to provide the whole 9 hours, but it's a 9-hour day, and it's 30 additional school days in addition to our regular calendar.
But to Tiffany's point, can you offer it and parents opt not to take the full 9 hours and still get the grant?
A good question.
And I know that we're talking years down the road, but to provide a day option for 3-year-olds, but mandate it to be a 9-hour day, I'm concerned.
So it would not be mandated, no. So the Expanded Learning Opportunity Program, it's slightly different than Expanded Learning Opportunity funds we've received this past year for COVID-related reasons. This Expanded Learning Opportunity Program is new, and we are hearing more details all the time about how this is actually supposed to get implemented in schools. So what I can tell you is that initially it looked like every district had an option to take the funds. Now, all districts may need to, or may be allocated the funds, and then you are required to create the program, but families will have the choice as to whether they participate in taking advantage of the program. So the short answer to your question is no, it will not be required for families to stay that whole length. But we would provide it so that if a family needed to opt into our school district for educating their early 4-year-old child, they would be able to drop off early, go to work, have their child go to a child care program before school, go to our school day during the day, and then go to a child care program at the end of our day that was more enrichment, continued enrichment, because the end of this would be enrichment too, and then pick up after work. So the intent of it is to expand and allow us to have a more child care and preschool-like setting to meet what's happening out in preschool settings currently.
Okay,
Hopefully
that's
that
helpful.
helps.
And I know things, year 2025 is a little ways away and things may change. I would just say as a trustee, I would like us to be very careful that we make sure that somehow remains an option. I recognize we can't control everything the state does, but I would love to not lock us into something if that ever happens down the road, because I do believe there will be a community of individuals that would like a 9 to 12 program, that if a parent didn't want the full 9-day, that they at least had some option. Thank you.
And we have to make considerations for that age group as well as we get closer. Like, is a 5-hour day appropriate for that age? And those are the things we need to think about and make decisions on. Yep.
Sorry, one more. Are we locked into that class size? I know financially it's probably the smartest. I just have to ask.
That's the maximum.
Okay.
Yeah, 24 would be the most, just like it is currently in K-3.
And that, what we're hearing is the same for 3-year-olds. We don't expect that to change. Okay, thank you.
So I appreciate this is daunting. Like starting an entire grade level is a pretty amazing amount of work, and I appreciate the way you're going about this. I also appreciate the focus on quality is where it should be. I mean, obviously, this is going to be a tremendous opportunity for us to your exact point. I mean, this then allows parents who need childcare a way to actually get enrichment during childcare, and it allows folks to say, as gas prices go, we should just save some money, so you're not having to put them in, and you're able to get that, and then they feed right into our system, which is exciting as an option available to parents down the road. The only question I did have was, I was looking at the Title I placement. So as you put it out to 25, 26, the Title I didn't seem to to go with our poverty levels as I know them school by school. So is this, and maybe I'm just wrong, which is the two at Rock Creek ongoing, is that based on projected poverty levels in those neighborhoods, in those schools?
Rock Creek has traditionally been a Title I school.
Right,
Yes.
but they have 2 to 1 across the board, and that's the expectation?
2 to 1 as?
2 classes at Rock Creek.
That's been how many they've had currently, and we projected all the way out that they would.
You mean they have that many K?
They have that many TK.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
But, okay, all right.
And then at Title I schools in Rocklin, we do make a choice to lower class size with Title I funding from 24 to 20. And then if we go to 10 to 1, if that comes through from the state, we would probably consider lowering Title I class size even lower than 20.
Thank you.
Trustees, I just want to make a couple just comments. One is despite of everything going on, we still are working with all the COVID stuff and everything else, that in the comments kind of even, you'll hear a theme of how are we looking ahead? How are we planning ahead? So this just came down from the state in July. You hear a lot of uncertainty of we don't know, because all the regulatory pieces haven't hit. Yet we have not wasted any time in doing a collaborative process to begin thinking about this together. Even though it's years of implementation, we recognize the need to do that. So in this committee that's met, 8 of our 9 TK teachers, the president of RTPA, Travis Mauger, was there. We had, people that work with the preschool community, Sac State, Sierra College helping us think, and a lot of other people, principals and others. So I'm really proud of the effort, the true collaborative process to help us think through in a lot of detail, and that we are going to do this together with our staff, with our community, and I think have really the best program to meet parent needs. And I think that's what we want to emphasize. And I could have mentioned this also when we had the comments earlier around the contract proposals, this is really exciting. You'll hear in the next item that we really are working with RTPA to be as proactive. I appreciate President Mauger's comments around how do we think now about where we want to go before we get there, and do things that allow us to collaborate to the maximum extent possible. And I think this UTK piece is that. You'll hear that in the PD piece coming up, and I appreciate that as far as negotiations as well. So really proud of the collaboration within all of this, and it is a huge lift, Trustee Miller, as you said. It involves every aspect of the district, and it's something that we're ready to meet the challenge, and we look forward to having this and getting to work with our students as they get younger and our families even longer for their best outcomes.
Now, information item 10.2, Educator Effectiveness Funds, Plan 2021 to 2026 update. Hannah Anderson, Director of Innovation, School Programs, and Accountability. And, ladies and gentlemen, Marty Flowers.
So, President Counter, Trustee, Superintendent Stock, it's a pleasure to come before you this evening with my colleague, Ms. Hannah Anderson. She's gonna speak to the work that she's been doing, and before I even get started, I just want to give her a shout out with all the stakeholder engagement and everything she's doing to tie our plans together. So it's exciting to see that, and that's what we're going to be doing with our Educator Effectiveness Fund. You can see here years 21 through 26. That's going to allow for some flexibility. It's going to allow for us, as Superintendent Stock just alluded to work with to collaborate with our teachers as far as what we know the improvements we need to do, what do we need to do to get there. So that's what's exciting about this plan. Just a quick overview of this. We'll review the requirements and allowable expenses we have. We'll review a draft of this plan, and once again, it's a draft because we do have plans to collaborate with our teachers on this and align that to some of our plans we already have, and then we'll finish up with next steps. As far as allowable expenses, you can see here for the EEF, may be used to support professional learning for teachers, for administrators, for paraprofessionals, for certificated staff. And then there's a whole list of that you can see there. I'm just going to call out a couple of them. For coaching and mentoring of our staff. We hired a ton of new teachers that first year of teaching is extremely challenging, so we have to continue to provide that coaching and mentoring. For strategies to implement social emotional learning, which was one of our goals this year, and we, for the first time ever, have a district-wide curriculum that we're implementing. For practices to create that positive school environment that all sites are working on. And then finally, as Dr. McDonald just alluded to, some of the instruction and education and strategies for our early childhood education. The requirements, obviously with money, there's always requirements. But again, I want you to look at the years here. They can be spent during this year all the way through 25, 26. And again, that's going to allow for that flexibility. With this plan on or before December 30th of 2021, we must adopt a plan and delineate how we're going to spend these funds. And Ms. Anderson will go over that. And then finally, anytime you have money, they're subject to annual audits that Ms. Patterson likes, and that's based by California Ed Code. And with that, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Ms. Anderson.
Okay, one of the pieces that I also want you to know related to the requirements of these educator effectiveness funds is that we actually just recently received how many dollars would be received by Rocklin Unified, but also just recently received this information that not only do we need to approve a plan by December 15th or by December 30th, which means at our next board meeting on December 15th, but that plan in draft form actually needed to come before you as an information item prior to that time. So I want to be incredibly transparent in saying we remain committed to ongoing stakeholder engagement, but it is incredibly challenging when you hear that you need to bring something in November and have a draft to pull together all of the people that you would want to have involved in this plan. So this truly is a draft tonight, and I will explain on the next slide why that is. What we are privileged to have is a very clear 3-year LCAP that is guiding our work and very clear board-directed goals that are guiding our work. We also continue to have our learning recovery plan that is funded in that expanded learning opportunity grant plan. So all of these plans are coming together around those same areas of saying we as a community want to have high quality, ongoing, in-person instruction. We want to ensure that our students are getting their differentiated needs met in small group learning opportunities and interventions. We want to ensure that our students have the behavioral and social emotional supports that they need and those mental health services. And in order for all of those pieces to be effective, we need to make sure that we have aligned professional development for our certificated staff, for our classified staff, for our administrative support, so that all of those programs can be implemented with fidelity and then make progress for students in each of those areas. So this draft plan incorporates all of the stakeholder engagement that has gone on, I would say, over the last 20 months, but no new stakeholder engagement specific yet to this plan. We have an intent to change that on December 6th. You heard Travis share earlier that Director Davidson and I met yesterday with Travis to talk, not yesterday, we met last week. My days are all blending together. We met to review, no, we did meet yesterday. Oh my goodness, we talked on the phone last week, and then we met yesterday to make sure that we have a plan on December 6th to pull together our professional development committee and look at this draft plan. We are going to, at that time, still stick in this priority areas. We've just implemented a lot of new things in Rocklin Unified. We've implemented a learning recovery program. We've implemented social emotional curriculum. We want to make sure that we're looking at how all of these pieces are working before we set specific identified actions for the next 5 or 6 years. Right? But we're not going to wait a long time to set all those actions. So what this statement says to you is that each June, we want to go above the requirements that are in this plan, and we want to do something that works for us here in Rocklin. And we have a clear way that we work with our stakeholders and that we work with our teachers around professional development and around what do we need, what are our needs for students. And that is through our LCAP process and through our PD plan. So we want to work all spring, and we want to approve a plan that will meet all the requirements of the law in December. But then we want to work during this spring to bring back to you, here's what's working, here's what we're tweaking, here's what needs adjusting. We want to work with the professional development committee and say, what are additional needs your teachers are seeing? How does that align with what our student needs are? And how can we come alongside and use these funds to support our educators in educating children? And then each June, where we have these funds, we will bring back detailed actions of how these funds will be used alongside the LCAP and the budget in June when you adopt both of those each June. So the intent is to go above what's required of just approving this coming December and say, I don't think that's good enough. We don't think that's good enough in Rocklin Unified to get something to, about a month ago and then approve a plan for $2.5 million now that we're going to spend all the way through 2026. We want to keep bringing this back and be really transparent and be able to make adjustments and changes. We don't want to decide today what needs to be there for the future. So with that, it's currently aligned to the LCAP because we know that that is our path for the next 3 years. And those are in alignment also with board goals and our community's goals. And so what you see in this draft plan are priority areas in alignment with the math improvement, in alignment with social emotional learning, closing those achievement gaps by bringing in interventions, supporting our educators in the use of data to drive their instruction in the classroom, and maintaining our effective programs. So we want to ensure that we're meeting the requirements of the plan, which is to actually have items that we're funding, right? And so this is these are the initial draft priority areas, and you can see that we've dedicated how we could look at spending them, but we want to provide maximum flexibility to say that if we're making big adjustments to where the funding would be in those priority areas, we can reapprove this actual plan too. There's nothing in the statute that says we can't keep coming back and doing that. We just need to have an approved plan by this December 30th, okay? So in this area, we would be, again, in those areas, so we would be doing continuous improvement in math. We would continue and deepen our learning recovery if we're showing that that's effective. And what do we mean by continue and deepen? We're going to be coming and talking to trustees about that at a workshop in January, right? And so in January, we can talk about what of this do we think we can continue? Does this make sense to continue? Where is it being shown effective? Where is it not being shown as effective? And at that point, it's still not a tremendous amount of time. We've been implementing since August, but I think enough time where we can make some adjustments and some thinking about how we can use these professional development funds to further support that work. What Dr. McDonald was just presenting on around the expansion of early childhood education, that is in here as well to ensure that we can help support teachers who want to go back and ensure that they have all of the early childhood education units. We also know that we need to continue supporting the work of our multi-tiered system of support, those intervention dollars. We want to continue to support and deepen the support that we have for our professional learning communities. Think in using EduClimber, our new data system, how can we support them in really diving deeply in what their students need and not making them do all of that work to figure that out? Right? We have incredibly smart educators who, just like Principal Hutton was sharing earlier, he can pull up things in this system in a matter of seconds that prior to were taking him a much longer time. So the idea is they can actually just use the information instead of having to go and mine it and gather it themselves. And then we also will want to make sure that we're continuing to support those Tier 1 programs, and specifically for our new teachers this system. That's something we've learned, is that as we bring in new teachers, we have really great instructional programs that are comprehensive, and we give, we can't ever give enough professional development for that. Right? And so we want to make that meaningful and expand on that. However, we also want to bring that to the PD committee and see if they think that's a good idea too. And then the last piece is our ongoing work around social, emotional, and behavioral supports. So our next steps here are to meet with the Professional Development Committee on December 6th to hear their input on these priority areas. If we can make adjustments and increase some specifics at that time, we will definitely do that. And then we will be presenting this plan for approval or for board action on December 15th. We will continue our meetings with this professional development committee, as I shared earlier, to jointly design specific professional learning opportunities. And all of this, during this time, will be keeping you involved through board workshops and also LCAP updates this spring on where we are with these funds. So making a commitment to bring that back. And then we will bring that professional development plan alongside the LCAP and the annual budget each June, which is above and beyond the requirements of the funds, but something we want to do to increase just the collaboration and transparency around these funds. Really make sure that we can make an impact for our teachers and classified staff. Okay? And with that, we are here to answer any questions. Thank you.
So, quick question, just more background. When was this presented by the governor, or when did we learn about it?
Patterson, do you remember when we specifically heard about the expanded learning, the educator effectiveness funds?
It was talked about in the adopted budget. But we didn't receive something in September.
Yeah, and I think that there was actually no talk of a plan being approved until mid-October.
Bless you.
Yeah,
My
again,
goodness.
just amazing. So the fact that something comes down from 30 minutes down the street and we can pull this together, amazing. So thank you. Thank you for that.
And there was no plan given by the state. We had to create our own plan. So not only did they throw this at us and all these requirements, we had to figure out how to even structure this.
And then the 2.5 million that you're budgeting, that's one-time funds?
Yes.
Okay. And is that first come, or is that like, if we ask for it, we can get it, or is it you can't exceed that number, or how does?
That's our allocation for Rocklin
Okay.
Unified.
Okay. Good. Just so, thank you. Great use of, and I know we talked about this before, the Plan, Do, Check, Act, the fact that we're going through and in the process, we're going to check and we're going to act and we're going to pull that together. So great use of the continuous improvement tools. This is great to see that we're tying in math and learning loss and those pieces, and just overall, funny how it works. Great timing on coaching and mentoring and how to do things better from an education standpoint. So amazing. I'll leave it up.
So, sorry. Yeah, so I cannot, this is awesome. And I love the flexibility built into this, the notion of we don't know, and we shouldn't know, and we're going to learn, and we're going to figure a way to. I also really like the cycles of coming back to it. I think that's great. You mentioned what you're going to bring back. You didn't mention, although I know you didn't mean this, the data that's going to come back with it as well, right? And so that, to me, is going to be the most important. I actually think professional development arguably is the most important thing we do in our system, and it's one of the hardest things to measure. And so the easy way to measure it is, did they go? Were they check in? But that tells us nothing. Did it deliver quality? And it can be incredibly expensive for low quality if we don't. So starting to think through how we know whether this is effective. I mean, just looking at the dollar match, and I understand it's all early, but the amount of money we're putting into recovery versus PLCs, and I think we could all agree, given the support, quality first instruction is far superior to intervention on the back end. So can we think differently about how we, and again, this is very, I love the thinking, but I'm excited about trying to use this opportunity to think differently about how we learn about how our system is working and then reallocate as a result. And I could see us then taking our entire budget and thinking differently at what we learn out of this. So thank you. This is great.
Thank you for your hard work on this, and especially hearing how quickly you turned this around. Thank you. Always a proponent of receiving more money. However, I do have a question going back to the requirements. In light of the previous presentation, apologies, a duplicative question of, in accepting these funds, I know it will require much more work of you, so I thank you in advance for that. But are there other conditions we're not aware of as trustees at this moment based off of this that we should be aware of if we accept these funds?
I would say that there are a number of requirements and assurances that are not included in this presentation, but that we can attach and bring back when we bring the plan for approval on December 15th. All of the allowable expenditures are here, but those are in much greater detail in Ed Code of what we can spend it on. These are sort of those allowable areas instead of the specific details.
Okay, I guess what I'm looking for, does it pigeonhole us into anything, like preventing us from doing something else, or forcing us to do something that we as a board may not want to do? Those are the things, and I don't expect you to read my mind in the moment, but not so much. I understand they're going to have very difficult rubrics for you to understand and have to go through of you can only spend money on this, this, that. My concern is by receiving the money, are they going to say you now have to do X, Y, Z, something that this board has not declared they want to do?
What I would just answer is and we can share with the board all the assurances that we typically sign on any monies we receive, but that's in essence why the plan comes before you as information. It comes back to you for action, is that the board is approving what we're going to do. And so if we had required actions that we are taking because they're required, we would, that would be in the plan as well. Right, and then also, that's the other commitment, I think, in giving the board the opportunity to exercise its oversight function, is by bringing this back annually for discussion, looking at data, looking at actions, that the board will be apprised through it. Even though the law only requires us to come to you once for approval, we plan to come back each time as the board works in its oversight function of district programs. So. And we will be happy to provide additional information as needed as we go through the process.
That'd be helpful. Sure. That would be helpful at the one where we approve it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great work in the short amount of time. That's amazing. So, thank you. All right. So we will now open agenda item 11.1, public comment on non-agenda items. Want to remind everyone that this agenda item is included to give anyone in attendance an opportunity to ask questions or discuss non-agenda items with the board. The board is not permitted to deliberate or take action on non-agenda items, but may refer the matter to a staff member for follow-up. A complaint about a specific employee to the district shall be made to the employee's immediate supervisor or principal as required by Administrative Regulation 1312.1. Please complete a green public comment card, cards with your name and a topic you'd like to address the board on. I will call your name, step up to the podium, and let you know who's on deck. All public comments must be addressed to the board directly. There is a 3-minute time limit per person on one agenda item. We do that for the first 10. And then anything after that, I think we've got about roughly 15. So the other 5 will have 1 minute to speak. Comments must be respectful and professional. When I call you up, just when you approach the podium, please restate your name, the city you live in, and the school your children attend. If any of you here are here to speak about a specific person, please be general. Say custodian, say teacher, say principal. If you do provide a specific name, I'm going to have to stop, and we'll ask you to sit down, and we'll go to the next person. So please make a general comment if you're speaking about a specific person. With that, I will start with Josh Nagelman. And then behind Josh, Kelly Stice.
Hello again, everybody. Thank you for your time.
What's your name?
My name's Josh Nagelman. My son is at Granite Oaks.
Perfect.
I'm
Thank you.
out of Whitney Oaks.
Thank you.
So I wanted to say, isn't it kind of funny that we've been having some issues with some history teachers in Rocklin? I was here last time speaking about a history teacher at Granite Oaks whom showed CNN videos saying the vaccines were safe and fully FDA approved. And, I had a call with Tony, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce your last name, and Principal Holmes, and, my son's stepdad and another parent. They agreed to send out an email explaining it was emergency use only and not fully FDA approved. And first off, I just want to thank them for that, for sending that out to the parents. That was very appreciative. I also, after this letter went out, about 6 hours later, I received a cease and desist letter from the teachers' union's lawyers saying I was threatening her by sending her emails of other points of view telling her I was putting her on notice in the next school board meeting, which I did, as well as I was poking fun at her by providing a doctor who happens to be local and has treated thousands of patients with 0 deaths, has been on the McCullough show, and had requested I sent her his information. He was aware she was pushing the vaccine, but still cares about every human life as I do. So I did provide that information. Next, I wanted everyone to be aware that the most trending search currently is died suddenly. Feel free to check that out on DuckDuckGo. You will find tons of children and adults randomly dying, and it happens to be related to the mRNA vaccine. Also, YouTube, athletes collapsed after being protected. You'll be shocked at what you will be seeing that's hidden from both the big stage of athletics as well as children's schools. And lastly, you know, my kid has a mask exemption, but I wanted to see if the school board could go ahead and vote to change the name of the students' desks to lunch tables so they can then learn without a mask. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly Stice, and then behind Kelly is Mike Murray.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, President Counter, Superintendent Stock. My name is Kelly Stice. I teach Math Plus at Granite Oaks Middle School, and I'm also a parent of a Rocklin High School graduate, and my youngest is now a senior, so hard to believe. October was Anti-Bullying Month, and we as a staff spent the entire month teaching kids about bullying, what it is, what forms it can take, and how to combat it. One of the strategies that we teach kids is if you see something, you say something. So I am here tonight to demonstrate that strategy, to be a role model for my students and others. So I saw something, and I'm here to say something. Last month, a colleague of mine was bullied at this board meeting, called out by name against the board's rules. The bullying of my colleague has continued with emails and now has moved on to social media. The board was also bullied, which seems to be the new norm by several parents and community members. My question is, how can we tell our children one thing and then do another? We are being hypocritical by the very actions and words we are allowing to occur at board meetings. So it is time for the board to stand up for what is right. It is time for the board to stop the bullying. So I am asking that the board policy 5131.2, bullying, be revisited and revised. This policy does address student-to-student bullying, but does not address adult-to-adult situations. I believe that this is warranted and necessary. No one should feel intimidated or threatened while doing their job. Teachers, administrators, school personnel, and board members should not be bullied. There should be clear consequences if an adult bullies or threatens a staff member, including speaking at a board meeting. Bullying and threatening is not free speech, and there should be consequences, such as having the mic cut off or being barred from speaking at the next board meeting during public comment. I realize that this is a bigger problem than just RUSD and its board meetings, that this is a national problem. But we can't fix it all here, but we can be the start of a change and model the behaviors we teach to our children. So a quote that my husband has introduced me to is, what you permit, you promote, and what you allow, you encourage. So it is time to change. It is time for the board to stand up to the bullies and let everyone in the community know that RUSD will not tolerate bullying and threats, that in this district, people can disagree and be civil. Without putting actions behind our words, what are our lessons for? How will our children know that bullying is not okay if we can't demonstrate the behaviors we teach amongst ourselves as adults? Please revise the board policy and put an end to bullying in our RUSD community.
Right, thank you, Kelly.
Thank you.
Mike Murray, followed by Ryan Dietert.
Hi, good evening. Mike Murray, Rocklin, kids at Cobblestone Elementary. I come here tonight to ask the board to take politics out of our schools. we have seen the negative national attention that Whitney High School has once again brought to our small community. There remains a culture problem at that school. But Whitney's not the only place this is occurring. At my kid's school, we recently had a few issues with politics on campus. First, we had a teacher handing out extra Cougar coupons that can be exchanged for extra recess, dress-up days, or other benefits to students that got the vaccine. This issue has been resolved on site, but no other student in Rocklin Unified should be subject to this coercion over a decision that is not theirs to make. The decision is that of the parents. The type of coercion creates a rift in families between parents and child and is unacceptable. Another issue which has not been resolved at that campus is the Land Acknowledgement Project. The Land Acknowledgement Project is a hot-button political statement being introduced to Cobblestone Elementary School students. In this project, it asks children to, quote, research and share information about the people whose land we occupy. This is a political statement with implications that the land that we live and go to school on is actually the property of Native Americans. Whether this is correct or incorrect can be debated using Supreme Court decisions, but that's not really relevant in this situation. What is relevant here is this is a clear-cut political statement being made to small children, and it's completely inappropriate. Yes, it's true that CRT is not taught in elementary schools no more than any other higher level classes, but the elements of creating guilt and burden for something ancestors may or may not have done is very similar in nature. For a bit more context on this project, yes, it is put on by the PTC, but the time and resources put forward by the school is tantamount to endorsing political speech. The flyer was not only attached in the principal's email when the PTC has their own email address, but it was also stuffed in kids' backpacks by district employees. Furthermore, the results of this project will be read aloud during morning announcements in 2 weeks. This is during valuable learning time. It's valuable learning time lost to push politics. District staff responded to my wife's email about this with technicalities and blaming on lack of control over the PTC. He hinted that if she doesn't like it, she should run for the PTC herself. That's an inadequate response, insulting, and complete nonsense. Without oversight, Cobblestone will continue to push out a political statement using tax-funded resources and quality learning time. The school and the district staff have failed in their duty of oversight. That's why I'm here tonight. The parents of Rocklin Unified have one simple request. Please keep politics out of our schools. Keep all politics out of our schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Ryan Detert, and then followed by Ryan Garth Magnuson.
Hello, my name is Ryan Detert, and I live in Rocklin, and my kids go to John Adams. So this school board has done some great things in dealing with this pandemic and government overreach. As a society in general, and as a parent, it is our job to protect our kids from anything that may do them harm. There have been numerous public opinions on the COVID vaccine mandate given in front of this school board and many others across the state. In my opinion, the COVID vaccine is neither safe nor effective and not necessary for kids. It doesn't matter how many t-shirts we buy, how many rallies we attend, or how many great television appearances we watch. At the end of the day, the needle needs to stay out of my kid's arm at all costs. That's why I say to this school board, in the most caring and encouraging way possible, none of you are doing enough. Anything short of voting to not enforce the vaccine mandate, even if right now it's symbolic, is akin to shuffling the chairs on the Titanic. Many school districts are already voting against enforcing the mandate, and we need to join them and form a coalition. If we wait until the mandate goes into effect to start fighting back, it's already too late. Right now is the time to shape public policy and opinion. 3 of you are up for re-election next year, and the world has changed dramatically in the past 3 years. Maybe none of you signed up for these types of challenges, but here we are. From numerous school boards, I keep hearing that our hands are tied. Mine aren't. I keep hearing that school boards don't want to be held personally liable. I don't care. I often hear that school board members are just volunteers. That's a cop-out. I keep hearing to just homeschool, but the government will still come for us next. The line in the sand is here and right now, and that is why, in hopes to encourage thousands more parents who will need to follow suit and plan their year accordingly, I am running for Rocklin Unified School Board next year. And I will continue to support anyone, no matter their affiliation, who fights to protect our kids. Thank you.
Garth Magnuson, followed by Leslie Gintz, Gintes.
All right.
Go ahead.
Board, thank you for having me up here. I would like to reiterate what that guy just said, Ryan. I agree 100% with what he just said. Fortunately, Board Member Satham touched base on a lot of the talking points that I was going to speak of, but I'd just like to reinforce a few points. I'm all about fighting this virus, but I don't believe the strategy of wearing a mask and injecting a treatment that is known to cause major adverse reactions is the proper course of action for our most precious children, and one shoe does not fit all. So what I would like to say is there are other means of combating this. One of them, one second here, if the government actually cared about preventing you or me from getting this virus, they would mandate that our children or you or somebody else exercise 1 hour a day, they eat a healthy, balanced diet, and they stop eating processed food. Yet, there's no mention of this in any curriculum, in anything. Kids are given terrible food at school. You can't change anything there. So, you go, well, I guess they don't really care for treating these kids properly, so is that why we still have the mask on? Because none of this actually makes any sense. It's all kind of like for show. Mrs. Sathoff is the only one actually, I guess, preaching what she believes, and I thank you for that. To me, the mask is a form of conformity. It removes emotion. You guys can look at me just biting your tongue and all that stuff, and I can't tell what you think about me. I can't see if you're smiling. I can't see anything. Everyone just looks like this drone. I don't like that. That's not how human interaction is, to me. Maybe it is to you. I guess this is the new normal, right? I don't know. But there's multiple studies that show that masks don't do anything to prevent catching or spreading corona. But it actually makes it worse. And I don't know if any of you have copped this yet, but all of this elitist politicians, once the camera's turned off, that mask comes right off. They go around handshaking each other. How you doing? Oh, yeah. In fact, we just got a text message with your trustees meeting where you guys were doing the same thing. Kind of ironic. In short, I just want to back Mrs. Sathoff's argument. I would, as half this county, I believe, understands really what is going on. We elected you board members to represent us, to be our voices. We need you to stand up against the tyranny and do what you said you would do if we elected you. We have to stop this now, and the first place to start is here, at the local level, and you board members have the power to stand up against this tyranny.
Thank you.
You signed up for this job.
We're over the
To
three.
be our voice, so we're begging you, please, do what's right for our children, stop this insanity.
Thank you, Garth.
Thank you.
Thank you, Garth. Leslie Ginter, and then following Leslie is Tawana Armstrong.
Hi, I'm Leslie. I live in Rocklin, and I have a child at Whitney High School. Your decisions regarding masks and the COVID shots impact thousands of lives, so it's imperative that you make informed decisions. Children have nearly a 100% chance of survival from COVID. However, this is not the case with the shots. There have been over 20,000 deaths reported on VAERS and over 1 million adverse reactions. According to a Harvard study, VAERS accounts for just 1% of actual cases. It is now known that COVID shots do not prevent infection, and according to the CDC director, Rochelle Walensky, the COVID shots also don't prevent transmission. It doesn't make sense to inject this experimental substance into our kids who have everything to lose and nothing to gain. As far as masks, According to the NIH, masks don't protect from the coronavirus. Masks filter particles that are 5 microns in diameter. COVID is 0.12 microns. An NIH study also showed that masks trap viruses and result in an increased viral load. They can cause fungal and bacterial infections. Please unmask our kids and stand up against the COVID vaccine mandates. To repeat a famous quote, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Tawana Armstrong, followed by Brian Ginter.
Hi, good evening, trustees, Superintendent Stock. So I'm standing before you to talk to you about the electives. The process is coming up. I believe you guys will hear on December 15th, and I look forward to standing before you to hear what you have to say when the ethnic studies class, specifically from Rocklin High School, is presented to you. I would send messages to Rochelle Price, Tiffany Sadoff, with regards to the ethnic studies class, wanting to meet with you as a community member to make sure I gather all of my feedback with regards to your positions on those ethnic studies class. I am Rocklin High School Community Advisor for the Black Student Union. So I have been in touch with Chelsea Jones, who teaches that class. She is the campus advisor. So I'm really wanting to make sure that there's collaboration that goes on with respect to those electives. And I know Trustee Sadoff, you and I had a conversation where you indicated you would love to see more ethnic studies class, and I would love to collaborate with you on that. So I look forward to hearing from you. I also want to make sure that with the proposal that you talked about tonight with collaborating with the city, I would love to also make sure that I have an opportunity to meet with you and Trustee Price, since you're the 2x2 on that, to see what we can do, identify intersections, especially when it comes down to the racial incidents that are happening on the campuses. And I do hear about them, and I would love to share with you those stories, because the students are not able to be at their best. At the last board meeting, I believe comments were made by trustees with regards to your position on the mandate. I would love to hear those declarations when it comes down to the racial incidents and the discrimination that's happening as well, to hear you publicly condemn all of those actions so that the students of color and those marginalized students would know that indeed they can count on you when they have those incidents that do take place. Would also love to hear you make those declarations when it comes down to American history, because I think I asked all of you who on the trustee board knew about the black market, Black Wall Street, Black Wall Street. And the show of hands indicated that some of you were not aware of that American history. So would love to see that declaration also be made when it comes down to ensuring that the full complement of American history is told. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Armstrong. Brian Ginter. And then following Brian would be Kevin Cooper.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Ginter. Live in Rocklin, new to the community. Have a daughter that is in Whitney High School, so it's a pleasure to be here. I stand here before all of you, not only for my daughter, but also for all kids in our community. Ladies and gentlemen, the science of the COVID restrictions does not support the tyranny that's occurring in our community. All of our children have a 99.997% chance of survival with this virus. The swine flu, you may remember, was removed from the market as being too dangerous, the vaccine for the swine flu, after 53 deaths. But we stand now with VAERS at about 20,000, and that's considered to be underreported, with over 1 million adverse reactions. There are many studies now that are showing that People under the age of 30 are now having myocarditis, especially males. And that data can be seen in a roundtable, a COVID roundtable that was done by Senator Johnson a couple of weeks ago. And if you haven't seen that, I recommend that you all do that. In that roundtable, you also hear a military doctor that spoke about a drug called DES. It was also considered to be a vaccine, I believe, that was taken off the market eventually. It didn't hurt the people that took the injection. It didn't even hurt their kids, not until they were 18, at which point they ended up getting a special type of cancer. Then they finally removed it. Think about what's happening with this. It's an experimental drug. No child that has a 99.997% chance of survival should have to take an experimental drug that just doesn't work. We all know now, the studies showed it doesn't prevent infection and it doesn't prevent spreading. No child that has a 99.997% chance of survival should have to wear a mask that also doesn't work. No child that has a 99.997% chance of survival should have to take a COVID test that gives the government their DNA. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you that where there is a guideline that you receive, choose freedom. Choose freedom for our kids. And where there are mandates, fight. We ask that you fight for our kids and show some peaceful non-compliance. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Cooper, followed by Amanda Dixon.
Let's make it a little closer this time. Hey guys, how are y'all doing? It's good to see you. Thankful for all the work you guys are doing. My name is Kevin Cooper. I live in the city of Rocklin, and I had some semi-prepared remarks. As always, I come with stuff to share, so I want to say something really quick about the idea of bullying. I'm an ex-cop from a bad place in California. I've seen a lot of people shot up, mangled, did it partially as a volunteer, partially as someone who got paid for it. And I would say that bullying is an interesting topic because depending on who's on the receiving end, it could be defined lots of different ways. One thing I would say is there's 350 odd teachers that chose not to get the vaccine, and we are bullying them by threatening to take their jobs from them if they do not take a vaccine. And I would say very loudly to the union that you guys are a sad demonstration of fidelity because you're not standing up for those people.
Mr. Cooper.
Hey, I'm talking to the union.
Cooper.
You can see me.
Mr. Cooper.
Hey,
We need
at the
you
end
to
of the
face
day,
board.
guys.
We need you to talk to the board.
Please
Do not
address
talk
the
to the
board.
audience.
Well, it's a public event, guys.
That's the
and
board.
It is not a
clearly-
public venue to talk to the audience. You
Cooper,
can talk
please-
to us.
please
Your time
address
is
the
to
board.
talk
Hey,
to
Rick.
us. Your time is to talk to us.
I've said what I said.
Mr. Cooper.
That said, guys, we've spent $1 million a year litigating stuff in this town since I've been here. Since Todd Lowell decided to fight on certain issues, or Kevin Brown basically litigated over whether or not we would have nurses in the schools. And what I need to say is the teachers union had 300 people or 150 people down here when they were going to lose just a couple of folks. We need to be prepared for that kind of challenge. And we need to be able to stand together and support the people that have decided not to get a vaccine that was created via an emergency use authorization. And you guys as a board and as individuals need to reach out to people like the president of Kaiser, maybe even the president of Pfizer, and get the elected and non-elected folks like pastors and other leaders to ask some basic questions. I called Kaiser and I called Pfizer and I asked them, hey, this Comirnaty vaccine that was created by something other than the emergency use authorization, where is it? They don't know. So what we're deciding as a community, I'm not placing the blame at you. There's a lot of people that live here, and all of them should be here to say, number one, we need to stand with everybody in our community, whether they're popular or not, and not let them get bullied. And say, hey, if there's a vaccine that's actually been created through the normal process, and we're gonna mandate people to get vaccinated, and we're gonna do this to people in our community, that we're gonna stand up and say something, even if you're a part of the union. It's not appropriate, it's not acceptable, and we're not gonna get judged well. That's bullying.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Amanda Dixon. Amanda Dixon, you're our 10th person, so you have 3 minutes. And then after that, Curtis Borton, and Curtis Borton, you'll be up after her.
Thank you. Hi, guys. Amanda Dixon. I am a parent and resident of Rocklin. We have 2 boys, ages 4 and 6. My 6-year-old is in a special needs class at Rocklin Elementary, and we absolutely love and respect our teachers. I'm on the site council and PTC. First, though, I'd like to give a heartfelt thank you to the board for actually listening to parents and doing the right thing. We have your back. We see you. You are our friends and neighbors, so thank you. I'm here to speak on the mask mandate and experimental jab mandate. I'm a not-so-rare parent that makes their kids wash their hands. We stay home if we're sick. We take our temperatures every day. We can't and don't wear masks. The science is here now. Masks don't help healthy people, but rather hurt them, especially my autistic son who needs to see and feel emotion. I could be home right now doing the cozy bedtime routine with my beautiful children. Rather, I'm here. I just hope one day they will understand. This is political and it needs to stop. As for the experimental jab, over my dead body. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you. Curtis Borton. Curtis, you'll have 1 minute, and then followed by Shannon Cantanella, who will also have a minute.
All right, well, I'll take my 1 minute speech of this then. First off, Julie, I know this is our first time after Veterans Day, so I want to thank you for imbuing in your kids a sense of service before self. And I know that's a very special day for you as well as Memorial Day. So I want to thank you for that. Hey, trees on the side of the mountain are stronger than trees in a valley because they get challenged. I know that we want our kids to be super happy in today's school, where we want a lawnmower over any obstacle whatsoever, give out 22 medals to kids at a wrestling tournament. We want to make sure nobody ever has their feelings hurt, God forbid. But we became the greatest country in the world because we grew up with the saying that sticks and stones may break my bones, but a debate will never hurt me. I've never seen a parent who has less influence over their kids than a teacher. There are 8,000 hours in a school year. Your teachers have them for 180. I don't care what my teachers tell my kids. I talk to them in the car, I talk to them at home, we have discussions, I encourage debate to let them figure out who they are. What are we really afraid of? I love that the last time you talked about you had a program coming where you were going to help teach parents how to be better parents. And I think that's one of those things that we need to look at. How do you encourage that?
Thank you, Mr.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot you switched the card.
you, Mr.
By the
Ward.
way, we had a timestamp, so I know when they arrived, you two changed them. Not cool.
Shannon Cantanella and Yvonne Sieber.
Oh, please don't let me get interrupted. I'm going to go quick. My name is Shannon Catanella. I have 2 children at the elementary school in Rocklin, and I want to say a recognition for Veterans Day and shout out to my family that are veterans. And I actually was in Roseville this weekend and went and saw their Veterans Memorial and saw a Sathoff family member listed on there. And I just wanted to call that out to you and say that I honor your family for serving. Across the way of this same park where the Veterans statue, the Veterans Memorial, which is actually really beautiful, is the Maidu Museum for the Native Indigenous American tribal community. It's also Native American Heritage Month, so I'd like to call that out. And although I don't have the verbiage around a land acknowledgement, I would like to say that I recognize that the Nisenan tribe was the tribe that I'm not gonna put a word on it. The Nisenan tribe was the tribe that still is here, and
Thank you,
I honor
Shannon.
them and their legacy.
Thank you, Shannon. Yvonne Sieber, and then following Yvonne is Matt Cropley.
Hi, trustees. Yvonne Sieber, Rocklin, and I have students at Granite Oaks as well as Rocklin High. On August 4th, I stood up here and I implored you to get creative in how our district enforced the mask mandate for our students. We know the science, we have medical data, and we know that it does not support masking healthy students. We also know that it has negative physical implications for many of the students, and so far, this has been a failure for RUSD. Further, I made it clear then that if we have no real leadership on the mask mandate, the vaccines would be next, and yet here we are. Our students' education is being held hostage for political reasons and only for political reasons. This is no longer about health, and we all know that. Let's get creative. Let's say no to the vaccine mandate, which has been, everything else considered, natural immunity thrown aside. Let's consider natural immunity. Let's say no to the COVID mandate. Let's follow what Calaveras did. They voted 5-0 against the vaccine mandate because they had real leadership on their board. They were willing to stand up. If they lose funding, they are willing to lose those repercussions. I think that the funding we may lose and those repercussions we would have might be less than the funding we're going to lose from all the parents pulling out of this school district. Over my dead body, this is a hill I will die on.
Thank you, Ms. Sieber. Matt Cropley, and then followed by Matt Cropley is Matt C.
Yeah, my name's Matt Cropley. I have a student, or a kid that goes to Rocklin Elementary. You guys have heard me multiple times in here. Everyone that's talking about the vaccine mandate and everything and the mask, guys, you're wasting your time. They got $17 million in the last year and a half from COVID, so they're not going to stop it, just so you all know. But does anyone know Horace Mann? Does anyone, a show of hands, who knows who Horace Mann is? As educators, we all should know in here. He's like the father of education and the modern education. You know, it came in 1837. Yeah, I'm a history guy. But I don't indoctrinate like some history professors at Whitney High School. But what I'm bringing up is, would he be happy about today's education? Would he? About indoctrination, political agenda pushing? I don't have much time, but we have a really issue with racism, bigotry, and ignorance in schools. And I think we shouldn't hold that. If you look at racism, it's the belief on color and description. So racism doesn't go one way, it goes both ways. What was done at Whitney High School is racism.
Thank you, Mr. Cropley.
Thank you.
All right. Matt C. And then following Matt C. is Michelle Derby.
Hello, my name's Matt. I'm a resident. I pulled my kids out of the government school. Everything I heard you guys talk about tonight was the social, emotional, mental health. It's like you didn't lead with academics. You know, they came up there and pitched this stuff to you. And it's like there's no research behind it. All of their measurements and everything that they had, you know, it's like they're measuring themselves. That thing about 96% of showing some improvement, but in bringing a couple of students and that are handpicked to prove their agenda. So, I mean, really, this stuff needs to be looked into. And it's, you know, the school, you're not our doctor. We have medical insurance. We have our own doctor. If we want to treat our children for mental health and all this social stuff, that's what you guys are really hiding everything behind. All the bad stuff, you know, even, I don't know where she went. When she came up and she was talking about the, whatever that thing is, it had to do with that AB 130. Everything bad is hidden in that social, you know, it's like, that's not a description. That's not detailed. That's not a detailed agenda. It's just, all it is saying social, you know, it makes it sound like a great thing.
Thank you, Matt.
But it's just hiding it. And I think you guys do have the power and the authority to say no to the vaccine. If you guys look into it.
Thank you, Matt.
The county has the power to govern the county from the state.
Matt, the minute's up.
So
I have
you
Michelle
really need
Derby
to look
coming
into
up.
it. So like when
Matt, please.
Dr. Fauci or Roger
Matt,
Stock,
please.
when he said
Matt,
to us and he said
please.
it's out of our hands.
Matt, please, your minute's up. We have
Show
Michelle
me
Derby
in
up
writing
here.
where it says that
Matt,
you guys don't have it.
Please.
You know, the authority, or you don't have
Matt,
the power.
please.
All they are is
Please end the comment.
guidances and recommendations.
Michelle, you're up next.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Michelle Derby.
I am Michelle Derby. I respect what Matt says.
Okay, 9.2 billion in partnerships with health departments and schools. That should say enough. So there's 4 major components that you will be using if you take these funds. You know, the funds that you guys were wondering about. Health screening, okay, which would be mental health, social distancing, testing, hygiene, more antibacterial soap, vaccine sites, which they're already all over. They're at Sierra College, at Rocklin Gateway, they're everywhere. Placer County approved the mobile sites to be at junior highs and high schools. And that's why everyone's going to lose the funding, because all the kids are going to be pulled out, because no parent wants their kid to get vaccinated against a 99.9% survival rate. It's ridiculous, it's absurd, and it's a political agenda, and we should all just realize that and start working on education only, not health. We have insurance for that. Okay, mental health, it could be used on mental health. Counselors and psychology, come on. Contract tracing, so we can add more numbers. Let's get tested every week so our numbers look like false positives. Yeah, okay, it's BS. Okay, learning loss, social and emotional learning, really? We got things at home for that. Next is gonna be smallpox, so get geared up for that one. And climate change, it's all BS, and we know it.
Trustees, do you have any items to be placed on a pending agenda?
I didn't realize we were done with public comment. I was taking notes. I don't know the correct forum for this. And so how do I, regarding, I know we're still getting more guidance from our legal counsel, but I do believe that the judge in San Diego made it quite clear that there's an opening there. So how do we give direction as a board, since we technically didn't vote on the masking policy? Would that just be updated by administration, or do I need to put something formally on the agenda to make sure it's addressed?
The masking, we're still getting legal opinions, as you said, or legal advice on the San Diego court ruling when they dismissed that case last week, and what any impacts that would have. And so we can advise the board on what those, what impacts that things may have to what we're currently doing in regards to the face covering mandate. What administration has done is we have taken that, advised the board on how we're implementing the requirements we have, and done so. We're happy to look at any impacts that may have on what we're currently doing, and then can look at what adjustments possibly could be made. But that's the process we're in. Of course, the board can, under its authority, put things on the agenda as it would like to do so. But I think at this point, understanding what, if any, changes have been made to us from would be helpful before agendizing an item.
So if it's accurate, if it's found that there are things that we could do differently, we don't have to agendize an item. It can be.
Right, and that's exactly it. And the board has been very clear in the direction is to comply with the law, and there's been numerous conversations that the board's had in public regarding this throughout the last 2 years. However, making any burden that it places on students or employees as minimal as possible. And we as a district have worked extremely hard over the last couple years to meet that. And we will continue to do so, because that's been the direction from the board. And so hearing your comments, Trustee Sadoff, and also comments from other trustees, in working with legal counsel to understand what, if any, changes is provided to us in options given the recent court action in San Diego. And we'll continue to do so and explore that based on that direction the board's given me.
One other quick question with that. If we do not receive a response back from the state before our next board meeting, or do we have a timeline on that letter?
The letter, I can share that the superintendents in the county, we have a regularly scheduled meeting tomorrow, and we'll be, and that I've asked for that to be placed on the agenda, and it has been, so we'll be discussing that tomorrow, and my understanding is we'll be discussing contents and timing of that letter. And the goal that I have, and I think others do, is that all 16 superintendents in the county, including the county superintendent, send a united message from our county. And so based on that, we'll be working, I assume, tomorrow on the content and timing of that letter.
Maybe Tiffany's question will be clarified by this one in addition. Does it have a deadline in it and a call for action or something at the end? Are you guys in, does it have a draft right now?
No, we are working on that, and that's where that's the purpose of the meeting tomorrow, is to work on that and is to take a look at that. And so I shared with the board the areas that I would like to see in the letter, and and based on some preliminary conversations with other colleagues, think that there's, again, I don't want to speak specifically for them, but support on keeping the current vaccine exemptions for personal, religious, and medical that are there, to keep those in, that we also have definitive answers from the state on what metrics they're going to be using to look at when the mask mandate ends, because right now we don't know. And so what we want to know is, what are they using? How can we know? How can we publicly track that and be aware as well, versus it continues without us having any information around how they're judging that. Third is that we also want to have the ability to work with our local public health officials to look at how we can best adapt or use the guidance that we have to meet local conditions in our county. And then the fourth is that we expect the state to be very clear on what is mandated and required that we don't have local control over versus what we do, because there has been confusion, not just throughout the state, on what local jurisdictions, school boards, public health officials can do and what they can't do. And we think that having that clarity is important to allow members of the public and the community to advocate directly to the appropriate decision makers. And so those are the points that I want to see in the letter. I think is something that I'm hopeful it will be concurred with. And so that's the process we're in. And getting 16 people to agree on all that, is the task we take up. So my intent is I would like to have that out as soon as possible, and then request a response as well from the governor as soon as possible.
All right. And I know the El Dorado County letter was somewhat of a baseline. Does that have a timeline, or hey, we expect answers by date X, or was it just more of a we want to have more control, we want to have more opinion in it, but is it an open or is it a closed-end item, is what I'm trying to get to?
It was an advocacy letter. It didn't have a we demand a response by such. And so, but we also feel that united and as a group, we have a better advocacy position to request that than if there's every individual district doing it on its own. And in fact, having a similar sentiment to, say, El Dorado County and our county, now you're talking, 30-plus superintendents, coordinating together. And so that's the intent, and then the intent is the letter is public. So it's not something that's hidden, but it's public as well.
Okay, so I guess for me, and I'll make it clear, I don't want to waste or wait a single day if having to wait till another meeting. If we are able to, if CDPH does not clearly what that judge's statement was, and I know we need to get clarification on that, but as I have read it, if CDPH does not clearly state how the expulsion or exclusion from the classroom needs to be with a move to independent study, then I do not want us to have to wait until December to address that. I think that should be able to be changed right away as soon as we are apprised. If we are not apprised by the next meeting, then I don't know how we do that. Can I call an agenda item? I don't want to also wait too long and then be told, well, we can't discuss this at the December meeting. So what is my cutoff for that?
I think I'll ask for clarification. Can we put that on the agenda with the hope that it's not needed, but it's there if we need to have an agenda item? And I guess if it's square, we can pull from the agenda. I'm looking to ask if
I mean, absolutely, and what we, you know, in our board bylaws state that, you know, a single trustee with a second from another can place something on the board agenda. And so, that is an option that we have. What we will do is work diligently to understand what, if any, changes are afforded to the district and how we implement the mask mandate. And then, again, I know that the direction is to have the burden be as light as possible in any enforcement of those mandates. And so that's something we're working on. So the board could, at this time, look to put something on there. The board could wait to see further developments, and then it still has time to signal we'd like something on the agenda prior to the December meeting. The request from staff would be that if there's an interest in doing so, that be made, and I'm just going to consult a calendar just so we can prepare all the items for the board's consideration, is that we would ask that, you know, by really that Monday, December 13th, that we would have any information, anything that the board's looking for. That would really be a great cutoff to allow us to prepare documents, would be that Monday, December 13th.
Okay.
Or not,
Thank
sorry, not
you.
December
No,
13th. Whoop, I was
I
wrong.
get the Friday, the Monday before.
It's, yeah, December
I
6th.
understand that. And Roger, I know this is a lot, but honestly, talking this out loud right now, I would like to make a motion that we add this officially to the meeting, because whatever result comes back, I am still very concerned as a trustee. By that point, everybody 5 and up will have had an option for a vaccine, and so I think it's time for us to have some difficult conversations. If we are not able to find a way with this judge's new statements, honestly, either way, whatever comes back, I want us to address this come December 15th. Do I have a second? Sorry, I'd like to make a motion that our December 15th meeting, we as a board discuss masking and vaccine mandates. I want both discussed. Do I have to say all mandates? Do I have to list all of them out?
The item, we have, I feel that in order to comply with the Brown Act, that we have to list what items are being discussed by the board. So if it's, what I heard is vaccine and mask mandates. Is there?
Would that include vaccine verification testing as well?
If that's the motion, then that would include whatever you motion.
I'll second.
Right, so adding to the pending agenda for 12:15, we have a vaccine and mask mandate and vaccine verification testing discussion. Is it?
Is an action?
Yeah.
I won't know if we need to put forth a resolution depending on what comes. If what comes back is we really have no options, then I think I can give you that as we get closer, correct, depending on what they give us. I just don't want to waste time. I also don't want us to say, well, we're talking about this December 15th, so if there's relief sooner, let's get the relief then. But I think I could propose a resolution by the deadline of that week before, correct?
Yes, that would be helpful. That way it could be published with the board packet. And so, you know, and then I would, yeah, so that would be fine.
So we have, okay, so excellent, thank you. So we will adjourn to a closed session, and we will go to, so adjourn to a closed session, and then after the closed session, we will come back and adjourn the meeting. So thank you very much for all of those who came and attended and spoke tonight. Thank you.